Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome. We're happy to have all of you here with us tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Lake Myra Elementary School student Felix Dassel. If you can come up to the podium. Felix is a second grader in Miss Tong's class at Lake Myra Elementary School. He is a fierce learner who prides himself on gaining new knowledge daily. He is a kind, inclusive friend with a huge heart. Felix is passionate about many subjects, but most recently took an interest in guiding the members of his class and school community to become a more green and environmentally conscientious. Felix is beginning an initiative at Lake Myra Elementary along with his teachers and the Student Lighthouse team. His idea is to include more recycling, less paper use, and the creation of a cleanup team, which will undoubtedly make Lake Myra a cleaner, greener place to go to school. We are so proud of Felix and trust that he will continue his legacy of leadership for many years to come. Wow, I'm so proud of you. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Felix. Our invocation tonight, we're going to hear from Ed Keegan of St. Eugene's Catholic Church.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And I'm representing the Wendell Council of Churches this evening, and I am Ed Keegan, and I am the chairman of the parish council at St. Eugene Catholic Church. Let us pray. Lord, grant that we may always allow ourselves to be guided by you, always follow your plans, and perfectly accomplish your holy will. Grant that in all things, great and small, today and all the days of our lives, we may do whatever you require of us. Help us respond to the slightest prompting of your grace so that we may be your trustworthy instruments for your honor. May your will be done. Amen. Amen. Father, Son, Spirit.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into our public comment period. As a quick reminder, the public can participate in public comment period in two ways. You can sign up for public comment the night of the meeting if you're attending in person at the podium in the boardroom lobby, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk by the Friday before the board meeting before 5 o'clock. Please include your full name and address for the record. Public comment timely received will be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes, and copies will be provided to the Board of Commissioners at the night of the meeting. And if you sign up, you have 3 minutes as well. I think I neglected to say that. So, we have several people signed up tonight, and I noticed that several of them are have indicated that they are here for some public hearings that we're going to have tonight. You can certainly speak at regular public comment, but if you would like, it might be preferable if you held your comments until the public hearing so they would be part of that public hearing. The first is Edie Now.
Good evening. I'm Edie Nowell. I live at 1016 Lakelad Road, Wendell, NC. We respectfully request that you, the Board of Commissioners, slow down or stop development until the infrastructure can catch up with all the development that you have passed already. For example, Wendell Boulevard needs to be paved. We need assistance at getting a Wake County deputy, which I'm sure y'all can do in the town, for Wendell Middle. It's hard enough to get in and out there, but we need some assistance. There needs to be a four-way stop at Cypress Street and 3rd. There needs to be a new bridge at Lake Ladd Road with 3 subdivisions that y'all have approved to go on that road. Potholes are being patched, but they doesn't stay. That needs to be done. Another thing that should have been done a long time ago is have a deputy, which I'm sure y'all can assist with, at East Wake High School. I know it's outside the city limits, but our children go there. And I think that you could work with DOT with the realignment of Eagle Rock Road to the intersection, which of the 3 would be micromanagement measurements driveway. So these are some of the requests that we have asked for. We know, and I disagree with closing Eagle Rock Road. I live off of that road. I pick students up from East Wake High School, and I just don't think it's a good thing to cut it off. And if you put a road that comes out at measurements, we need a stoplight. I'm told by the town manager that, that yes, there'll be a light at the new Valley Wendell for the PUDs and that way. And then in Tarboro, the one you're going to approve tonight, you're going to come out at 97. Where does that leave us that have lived on or off of Eagle Rock Road the whole time? We have to go out of our way to Wendell Valley or go all the way up to 97 at Hepzibah Church and then turn around to go to East Wake High School or to the credit union. If not, if you turn us loose out there at Measurements Group, no light. You've got to cross 3 lanes, make a U-turn, cross 3 lanes to get on Roseville Road, to go to the credit union or to East Wake High School. If there's anybody here that agrees with me, would you please stand that the development should stop or slow down
Ms.
until
Now,
the
your
infrastructure...
time's up. Thank you.
Well, I wish y'all would listen.
Nate, Ange.
Your Honor, I will wait until the hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Heather Osborne. Wait. Okay. Daniel Osborne. Same. Okay. Steve Berry.
Public hearing.
Ben Kuhn.
Same.
Martha Henley. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. This is the recognition of Lake Myra Elementary School, Carla Tavares. You could come up here. Carla Tavares, I'm sorry, is Lake Myra's Teacher of the Year as recognized by her colleagues. Congratulations for that. As our English as a second language teacher, she works with a population that sometimes gets overlooked. Working with students who speak a variety of languages does not even faze her. She works hard to ensure they are listened to, cared for, and succeed academically. She often reaches out to staff to see how she can better serve the English as a second language population and coach others on how they can serve these learners as well. Ms. Tavares continuously exhibits culturally responsive practices through her work with students, and her compassion for students rivals any teacher at Lake Myra Elementary School. She is dedicated and committed to the growth of our community school as a whole, all students, staff, and their families. She sets high yet reasonable expectations for herself and others. In addition to her role as a teacher, her service to the Lake Myra community includes facilitating staff equity training, serving as a safe zone person in support of the LGBTQ+ community, leading our summer learning camp, and mentoring beginning teachers. Ms. Tavares co-chairs family engagement meetings and consistently works to understand and advocate for the community and staff's best interests. She is our school's consistent ray of sunshine, Her positivity is contagious. She not only embodies our school hashtag, hashtag Be the Light, but uses the hashtag It's Time to Shine almost daily on her Twitter page, highlighting all of the positive things happening at the lake for our community to see. She sees the light and the best in everything.
Thank
Ms. Taveras loves what she does, spreading the love around the school to our students, staff, and family. She's what we imagine all educators should resemble. Through all of her trials and tribulations, she's always doing what's best for students. Her laughter, joy, calm, and hopeful energy, as well as her honesty, are refreshing and restorative. We have the privilege and honor to work alongside her, partnering to make Lake Myra Elementary School the best it can be. That is certainly high praise from your principal. Probably
Thank
one of
you.
the longest ones I've ever gotten. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh. So we wanted to bring you here tonight and congratulate you for being Teacher of the Year.
Thank
I
you.
thank you for everything you do for kids at Lake Myra Elementary School and Wendell.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's my honor and my privilege, so thank you for allowing me to be here. And I also invite you all to come out and check out all the great things that we're doing at the lake. And our kids will be happy to give you a tour, and Felix will be one of them. So thank you for having us here
Thank
tonight.
you. You're
Thank
very
you, Mayor.
welcome. Item 4B is the October 2022 Strategic Initiative and Financial Snapshot Report. We're going to hear from Garrett Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. Here to present the October 2022 Financial Snapshot Report. We've compiled our expenditure and revenue data for this fiscal year through the end of last month, October. In your packet, you received some graphs, charts, tables, what have you, of different departments, revenue types, expenditure types, kind of to summarize where we are as of October 31st. A lot of the information was similar to what was presented to you for the September report. Expenditures are tracking just below kind of a standardized linear benchmark, which is a good thing. Again, similar to last month, if you were to look at the IT, non-departmental and special appropriation budgets, they're going to look like they're a little further along than they should be, but we've kind of front-loaded some of our bigger budget expenses, so it's expected that they will catch up over time. Revenues are a little bit below that, again, that standard benchmark, which is to be expected. One of our biggest revenue types, which is our property taxes, does not typically come in until late November this time of year through early January. Since this report was produced, we have seen some property tax disbursements coming through, so things are tracking as expected. Sales tax is still performing strongly, so we're hoping for a continued trend on that. Like I said, in your packet, you received some other charts that they were presented for the types of revenues that do typically lag, so we tried to adjust for that for your viewing to understand where things truly are versus an average 12-month portion of it. So that's kind of the short and quick of it. If you had any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Are there any questions from the board?
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Item 4C is the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year 2023 budget.
Yes, thank you again. So excited to be up here to present to y'all that the town received notification from the Government Finance Officers Association that the town's fiscal 2023 budget, which is the current year we're operating out of, received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. This is the fourth time we submitted, the fourth time we received the award, so it's something we're very proud of. While a balanced budget is required by North Carolina statute, the GFOA budget program requires the town to kind of go above and beyond what's required of us to show a little more transparency, show that we've put the thought into what we're spending each year and doing it strategically. Of of the jurisdictions that participate in the program, we're one of about 1,800 nationwide. That goes above and beyond to show that transparent budgeting process. The total figures for the state aren't fully available at this point, but as of the 2022 cycle that we went through last year, we were one of 61 North Carolina jurisdictions to participate and receive the award, which is good company to be in because I believe there's roughly 550 local governments and county governments. So we're one of few to receive the award. So I think that's something, again, to be very proud of. To earn this recognition, the budget document submitted must meet program criteria and excel as a policy document, financial plan, operation guide, and communication tool. Like the annual comprehensive financial report that the town submits for and has received several times, the budget award is evaluated by a panel of outside reviewers that are experienced in public sector budgeting. So again, it's something we're very proud of. We're entering the winter time of year, so we're about to kick off our 2024 budget season here soon, and hopefully we'll put together another award-winning budget. So happy to answer any questions, but thank you.
I'm confident that you will. Congratulations, 4 in a row.
Thank you.
That's great. Are there any questions from the board, comments?
Just a quick comment, I'll say that the reason you probably didn't get a lot of questions on item 4B is because of item 4C. So, good job, congratulations, appreciate the hard work.
Thank you.
Mayor, did we get the consent agenda?
Did I miss the consent agenda?
No, we didn't. We did.
Thought so.
Thank
Yeah. That's a good question, though, because sometimes I'd go right past it. I get so excited about being here. We'll move into our public hearings. Item 5A is a public hearing for a non-contiguous annexation of 1 acre parcel, PIN number 17734481179, located at 11021 Pool Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. The first public hearing tonight is on annexation 22-09. As you made reference, it's a 1 acre parcel located at 11021 Pool Road. The BWJ LLC has submitted an annexation request for the 1 acre parcel located at that address. The applicant would like to connect the existing residential home on the property to the municipal water system and remain on septic. This parcel is located in our ETJ and zoned rural agricultural. The applicant's not requesting a change in use or a zoning classification change at this time. You can see the parcel there outlined in blue just south of Central Baptist Church. The area in light blue you can see is in our ETJ. The water line is available. Sewer is not available at this time. From a service delivery standpoint, it's only a change for police response. Once you're in our city limits, then you get Wendell Police responding traditionally and not Wake County Sheriff. And Public Works, once annexed, would be eligible for municipal waste services as well. Because the property is already in our ETJ, and there's no change of use, planning in Parks and Rec impact stays the same. I mean, they would still come to us for any building permits to renovate the home or sign up for any Parks and Rec programs. Property is already served by the local fire district. Water service is readily available by our service agreement with the city of Raleigh. And as I said, sewer service is not available at this time to serve the property. The property owner is here if you have any questions, or I can answer them as well.
All right. Open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board?
I do have one.
Yeah.
Brian, can you talk a little bit, I don't know if, okay, can you talk a little bit about our contract for municipal waste services and just will this just look like any additional customer, or does its location change the way that they would be charged, or we would be charged for their service?
No, so once a property is annexed in our city limits and the water connection is made, the billing for the waste services is included in your water sewer bill. So they would receive a bill for the water usage and municipal waste services. The trucks, the GFL trucks that we contract with are already serving other properties nearby and in Wendell Falls, so it's not out of a service delivery area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
like to be heard?
Got any questions? I'll be glad to ask.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Won't make him get up, okay. Are there any citizens who would like to be heard? Yes, ma'am. Come to the podium, give me your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Regina Harmon, 6616 Tails Branch Road. I actually live across the street from this property. I have no problem with it being annexed in. I'm just a little curious, though. I know they've already tapped into some water, and I'm wondering if that got fixed yet. Several of my neighbors noticed that they had already ran a water line to Central Baptist Church to their office all the way over to this house. I don't know who owns the property. I know it's some name BWJB, and they ran a water line from the church office to the house, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And I know that I have brought it to the attention of the town, wanting to know if this was done properly and this, that, and the other, because I know that to get water from the city of Raleigh, don't you have to tap into like a main water line, not run it from a church office or another piece of property? Don't you have to do it to get a meter and this, that, and the other? Well, several of the neighbors noticed that it wasn't Raleigh Water out there running the water line, it was somebody else, and they noticed that, it didn't seem like it was being done the correct way. I mean, anybody's allowed to tap into city water. I think that's great if they want to take advantage of that situation and it's going to help their household, but it needs to be done properly and it needs to be done the correct way. And they're asking to be annexed in tonight so they can tap into that. From what I understand, they've already tapped into it, but they've tapped into it through the church office, not through the actual main line. And I'm wondering if that has been fixed or rectified, so when we're moving forward, it's done properly or whatever, to that point, because if, that's all I really want to know. And, and again, anybody can tap in to the city water. They're welcome to do that, and anybody can be annexed into the city limits. It just needs to be done properly. And as of today, it's still owned by this company. It's not owned by the church. And as of last week, when I spoke to one of the town inspectors, he told me that a permit of any sort hadn't been pulled for this property, but he was aware that a water line had been ran, and he was looking into it. But I haven't gotten an answer yet, and then I saw it on tonight's agenda, so I decided to come up and ask these questions to see if maybe I could get some answers from y'all. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I always love that you listen so intensely because you really do, and I appreciate it, Joe. Thank you. Oh, and Madam Mayor, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, for a motion.
Hold on just a moment.
Do you have any information on that water meter to the house?
Mhm.
Was there already a water meter there?
So, planning staff was made aware of the connection without proper building permit. The first step is in the process to rectify the situation was to have the applicant apply for annexation. Until you're in our city limits, we do not give you access to water and sewer. The second step for the property owner is to recombine that parcel with the church, and that will have to happen next after annexation. And the third step is to issue the building permit that has been applied for to rectify it and make sure the work that was done by up to code. So there's a 3-step process to rectify the connection to the water line.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
And then my understanding is they'll have to, then of course, as Ms. Harmon was saying, connect the water line in an appropriate manner that's up to code, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
and they'll have a separate water meter? Or?
No, not if it's recombined with the church.
Okay, so it's actually gonna be a church building?
It's gonna be, the 2 parcels will be a recombination of the 2 parcels.
All right, anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the annexation and adopt the attached ordinance.
All right, we have a motion to approve the annexation and adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
One no. Item 5B is a request to rezone approximately 257.43 acres from Wake County Highway District and Residential 30 and Town of Wendell Rural Residential and Rural Agricultural to Town of Wendell Planned Unit Development to create a planned unit development called Wendell Commerce Center. Mr. Coates.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. So thank you for reading that long agenda item title. So the action tonight is to hold a public hearing on the proposed annexation and rezoning request and consider making a motion to adopt the attached ordinance. The planned unit development, there's two components for it, a rezoning, which is heard both by the planning board and the board of commissioners, and then the next public hearing on your agenda is for a special use permit, which is quasi-judicial hearing before the board of commissioners. This proposal, as the mayor mentioned, is roughly 257-acre assemblage at the intersection of Wendell Boulevard and I-87 that would create a mixed-use development of commercial, office, industrial, and residential development. The planned unit development contains 4 zones that allow for various mix of uses. Zones 1 and 2 are adjacent to U.S. Business 64 and are intended to be for more commercial development. Zone 3 was the majority of the site and is adjacent to I-87, and the rail line is intended for mostly industrial development. Zone 4 is south of the rail line and is to be a residential mix of single-family, townhome, and multifamily units. The applicant did complete a TIA. We'll go over the TIA later on, but the TIA does have some thresholds for conceptual build-out of the site. For zones 1, 2, and 3. Zone 4 was not part of the TIA, and whenever that develops, they'll have to complete their own traffic impact analysis. TIA roughly states about 1.7 million square feet of industrial space, 24,000 square feet of retail restaurant, 65,000 square feet of grocery, 336 multifamily dwelling units, and a gas station with 8 fueling stations. If the applicant exceeds any of those thresholds, they'll have to update the TIA and provide that for town staff for review and NCDOT. The applicant is proposing a maximum threshold of 650 total multifamily dwelling units in zones 2 and 4, a density of 4 units per acre for single-family homes, and a density of 8 units per acre for townhomes in zone 4. The PUD document included in your attachments as attachment C has exhibits related to the proposed PUD. If approved, the applicant would submit construction plans for staff review. Some facts about the project, the locations, 14 different properties. Current zoning is a wide variety. Wake County Highway District, Residential 30 for Wake County, Town of Wendell Rural Residential, and Rural Agricultural. Requested zoning is planned unit development with the Town of Wendell. We went over the acreage. They did submit for annexation requests, so that's part of the combination with the rezoning. Current land use, woodlands, agricultural, and residential. Proposed use is a mixed-use commerce center. You can see the property owners listed, and the applicant is Apadan. Property is located between Wendell Boulevard and Nightdale Eagle Rock Road along I-87, is near Wendell Falls in Wake Tech, and the majority of the land is within Wake County's jurisdiction today. A lot of planning has gone on this site. Town's previous plan had this as an activity center. Wake County's plan, most of it's in Wake County's jurisdiction, has that labeled as a walkable center for mixed use. The zoning is a variety. Town of Wendell CMX is Wake Tech zoning. There's commercial highway zoning nearby. Wendell Falls, the PUD zoning for that community, and then other industrial to the west across the interstate, and then also some rural residential zoning as well. So it's a wide variety in that area of jurisdiction and zoning. Here's the overall site. You can see the different zoning classifications nearby. The parcels are highlighted in blue. You can see the different zoning classifications. Wake Tech is to the northeast. The Glennon project, mixed use, is across the highway. You can see to the west is an industrial park. off of Three Sisters Road, and then there's also a small-scale airport over there as well. To the south, there is some industrial zoning with Knightdale. That's part of Wendell Falls. The PUD district is Wendell Falls, and then there's rural residential. Here's their overall PUD document, which shows the different zones. You can see Zone 1 is in orange, and that is mostly commercial. Zone 2 is commercial as well. It's that pinkish red color. Zone 3 is the industrial, and Zone 4 is residential. The applicant is requesting a PUD and as such proposes unique zoning districts, lot sizes, setbacks, and other requirements. We'll go over what their proposal is. The document of the PUD document will become the zoning regulations for the development. Purpose of PUD zoning is to allow for larger developments with integrated plans that may include some or all of the following: single-family residential, multifamily, commercial, recreational, civic, and industrial. The 4 zones, Zone 1 is commercial, could include lodging, office, retail, restaurants, entertainment, recreation, civic, institutional, distillery, brewery, neighborhood manufacturing, and research and development. Zone 2 is commercial with a multifamily component, so it could include everything in Zone 1, but also multifamily units. Zone 3 industrial could include any of the following: lodging, entertainment, recreation, manufacturing, wholesale, storage, civic, institutional, and infrastructure. Zone 4 is residential, could include single-family, multifamily, and other residential uses, as well as civic and institutional. The PUD document lists the full list of uses and their status for the PUD. The applicant has, because there is a residential component, has submitted design guidelines for the residential component, which is consistent with what we're seeing in other residential single-family. Just as a reminder for everyone, state law prohibits the town of Wendell from regulating what a single-family house can look like. We rely on zoning conditions to determine what types of materials and how the homes are laid out from an exterior standpoint. So single-family detached includes 12-inch minimum foundation with masonry finish on street-facing sides. No single-family front facade or primary color can be duplicated for 3 lots directly across the street or diagonally across the street. No vinyl siding. Minimum of 1 window or door on all side elevations on upper and lower levels, except on 0 lot lines, which would be townhomes that don't have an exterior wall. Garage doors will have windows or carriage hardware. Garages that extend beyond the front of the house must incorporate a trellis, eyebrow roof, column projection, or other architectural element. The single-family homes must have a minimum 6-foot deep porch covered or landing uncovered. All homes will contain at least 1 window on each side elevation. Townhomes, no vinyl siding. Front facade shall utilize masonry, brick veneer, or shake accent elements on 50% of the units in each building. Each building shall include a staggered break of at least 2 feet or vertically have an architectural element. This is key, so when you look down a street, there's like a setback of where the homes aren't all in the same line. There's a step back. All end units shall have a window on the side elevation. Buildings must incorporate 3 of those following items listed, whether that be a cupola, a stoop entry, bay windows, balconies, different features, siding. At least 2 of the following elements shall be used. So those all get checked for zoning verification when permits are submitted. It is key to note that vinyl is prohibited as well. Apartments and condos, they'll meet the town of Wendell UDO requirements. They're not proposing any conditions. As a town, we can regulate multifamily and commercial buildings, and so we have standards in the UDO to determine the look and appearance of apartments, condos, and mixed-use buildings and commercial. Commercial buildings, the additional requirement, they're proposing standards shall apply to all facades except the rears unless facing street or civic gathering spaces. At least 80% of the facade shall consist of the materials listed. And they could be glazed brick, fiberboard, stone, cast stone, masonry units, a wide variety of different products. And then facades may not consist of more than 20% of EIFS or split face block or concrete block. And cinder block is not permitted. And then buildings in Zone 3 are exempt from building design requirements of Chapter 5. All Zone 3 buildings to incorporate changes in color, building materials, and/or projection every 100 feet of a facade. This breaks up a large wall of, so that you have to use different materials or different adjustments or color to change that pattern. All mechanical units shall be screened from the public right-of-way or residential use. Units mounted screens are permitted. Environmental, the applicant will need to obtain stormwater, sedimentation, erosion control permits from Wake County Environmental Services before any site work can commence. The proposed development plan will need to meet the requirements of the town's UDO. Wake County does provide stormwater, sedimentation, erosion control services for the town. Buffers, zones 1, 2, and 3 to preserve a 20-foot undisturbed outer project boundary buffer. And then where the perimeter 20-foot project buffer is disturbed and graded due to site challenges, they'll reappoint or reapply a 25-foot type 1 replanted buffer in its place. So if they disturb that 20-foot exterior buffer, they'll plant a new buffer that's 25 feet, so it's 5 feet wider than what they disturbed. And then also there's 0 buffers proposed along the rail right-of-way. Interior buffers. If you notice, they have type 1 buffer, type 2 buffers, which are different than our UDO. I'll go over what those mean, but they're proposing buffers between different uses on the site. So if it's a warehouse, light industrial adjacent to vacant residential, they're going to provide a 20-foot type 1 buffer. Warehouse, light industrial adjacent to existing residential will be a 25-foot type 1 buffer. Residential adjacent to vacant warehouse, light industrial will be a 15-foot type 2 buffer. Proposed residential adjacent to existing warehouse, light industrial will be a 15-foot type 2 buffer. Interior buffers between like uses and buffers between multifamily residential adjacent to retail will not be required. In their PUD, a type 1 buffer is a minimum width of 25 feet, which contains 1 canopy tree every 40, 1 understory tree every 20, and 1 shrub every 5. An alternate type 1 buffer may be reduced to 15 feet, except project perimeter buffer, but must be supplemented with 1 evergreen understory tree every 20 feet. And then a type 2 buffer is a minimum width of 15 feet, which contains 1 canopy tree every 30 and 1 shrub every 5. Modified gateway buffer. The town's UDO does require gateway buffers along all of our major roadways. They're providing a 15-foot streetscape buffer along Wendell Boulevard that will serve as a gateway to the development. Street yard buffer to include 3 canopy trees per 100 linear feet, 6 understory trees per that same 100 feet. The buffer will also contain 1 shrub every 5. Understory trees may be pyramidal evergreens or ornamental trees. Spacing for landscape requirements for the gateway shall be flexible in design if the landscape required for each 100-foot increment is satisfied. The gateway buffer will include signs at the main entrances and either a split rail fence or small masonry wall feature in the buffer yard, which is very common to some of our other developments that have had streetscape buffers, Wendell Falls or other sections of Wendell Boulevard. Open space, residential development has to dedicate square footage of open space per the type of unit, so they'll have to meet those requirements. The applicant is proposing that the natural areas associated with the overall development be used to satisfy required open space if they are activated with outdoor amenity that will be used by residents of the residential portion. These outdoor amenities are included to walking trails, dog park, pocket parks. Streams and wetlands. Exhibit A shows the general locations for the ponds and environmentally sensitive areas. However, those areas will need to be delineated further during the development process. Utilities, they spent some time planning these utility extensions out. We typically see less detail in a PUD, but they've worked with the city of Raleigh and planning staff to determine details of their water sewer connections. So water service will be provided to the site via the town's agreement with Raleigh Water. The applicant's proposing public water mains throughout the development in the new public road right-of-ways in zones 1, 2, and 3 that will connect to the existing 16-inch water main along Wendell Boulevard. Zone 4 will connect to the existing water main on Knightdale Eagle Rock Road. Sewer service will be provided by a new public sewer pump station located near the southwest corner of the property, which will pump via a force main east along Eagle Rock Road in Old Tarboro to the gravity sewer. Zone 4 will be served by future gravity sewer south through the Wendell Falls development. Transportation. The applicant's proposing a north-south thoroughfare that will connect with Rollsville Road and extend to the rail line and would eventually connect to Wendell Valley Boulevard and Wendell Falls. The north-south roadway would provide an important connection for the future that would run parallel to I-87 and connect the Wake Tech area with Wendell Falls. The future rail crossing would be designed and constructed by either developers, Town of Wendell, or NCDOT at a future time. The proposed north-south roadway would be constructed to a 3-lane roadway with a multi-use path, but a 110-foot right-of-way would be dedicated for future roadway expansion. The applicant's proposing the east-west collector that aligns with the arterial and collector street plan. On this map, it's in orange on their site. The east-west roadway will be a 79-foot right-of-way with 3 12-foot travel lanes and an 8-foot multi-use path on their site. Portions of the collector road are currently under construction as part of the Anderson Farm and Peyton Place subdivision, which is in blue on this map. There is another orange section proposed by Old Tarboro. This road would start near SPC, go through the Anderson Farm Peyton Place, would eventually connect to Eagle Rock, and then continue over to Wendell Valley Boulevard. They are constructing a portion of the 79-foot right-of-way continually from Wendell Valley Boulevard, which is in black, up to an entrance right off of the interchange with I-87. Provides connectivity. Without this type of collector road, it would force all traffic to go down and use Knightdale Eagle Rock or Wendell Boulevard, and having these collectors throughout our jurisdiction is key for movement of people, bicyclists, pedestrians, and just the network connectivity. If fully built out, this roadway would provide access. Let's say you live in Edgemont Landing and you want to go to Wendell Falls to Wake Med. They could continue down Edgemont Road, cross over at SPC Mechanical, use this roadway to get to Wendell Valley Boulevard, make a left and get to Wendell Falls without getting on Wendell Boulevard. The network is key as we grow as a community to have options for people. These type of collector and minor thoroughfares are very similar to other roads in our jurisdiction, potentially like Big Falls or Taylor and Wendell Falls. They serve to move people from one neighborhood to another without necessarily having to go on a major roadway. The applicant, it's also key to note, they've obtained the right-of-way for a 110-foot roadway to connect the current Eagle Rock Road with the new entrance to Wake Tech that assists with the realignment of Eagle Rock Road. Town of Wendell is currently drafting an RFQ for transportation services to design the future extension of Eagle Rock Road. The options are connect straight north where it is now to Wake Tech's entrance. The other option is to connect to micro measurements. And so the town's RFQ will determine the feasibility of both options, cost estimate, and also just overall design and feasibility of those. Future rail crossing could be designed and constructed by either developers, Town of Wendell, or NCDOT in the future. And that could be at grade or not. There's plenty of right-of-ways, 110-foot right-of-way for that future rail crossing. So the transportation exhibits of what that right-of-way would look like, the 110-foot right-of-way, and then the 79-foot right-of-way as well. Transportation, the UDO did require a TIA for the size and scope of this project. TIA has been completed to a conceptual build-out of the development in zones 1, 2, and 3 to create a vehicle trip count that will be used to monitor density as development occurs. A trip count update memo will be required with each construction drawing submittal in zones 1, 2, and 3 to track the total trips as development occurs. For example, the trips for a 65,000 square foot grocery store is a lot different than a 65,000 square foot office building. Grocery stores and retail create a lot of trips, and so they did a TIA that has a different flexibility in what could get built, and also allows them to keep track of trip counts, and then if they do go over in certain thresholds, they have to revise the TIA. And as I said, revisions to the TIA may be completed if the square footage of all uses exceeds the original TIA or the projected trip generation, or if any one use exceeds the projected numbers. The applicant's TIA contains 4 scenarios with improvements. So I'm going to go over each of them on the next 8 slides or so. Scenario A includes a maximum of 1 million square feet of flex warehousing space where some office space may be accommodated. In scenario A, Eagle Rock Road is rerouted through the Wendell Commerce site and contains the north-south roadway with multiple turn lanes out of the development, and Site Drive 1 would be right in and right out. Site Drive 1 would be their first entrance when you come off of the interchange onto Wendell Boulevard. Here's a map showing that. Scenario B includes a full build-out of the site with the thresholds listed. Scenario B, Eagle Rock Road is realigned to form a new intersection at Wendell Boulevard and Micro Measurements Driveway and contains the following improvements: a full lane in each direction between the Wendell Commerce Center entrance and the interchange ramps of I-87, a 100-foot right turn lane onto eastbound I-87, and the intersection of Knightdale, Eagle Rock, Wendell Valley Boulevard will be monitored for signalization. And the reason we mention that is scenario B does not include the rail crossing. Without the rail crossing, DOT still is going to require that Knightdale, Eagle Rock, Wendell Valley Boulevard be monitored for signalization, with none of their traffic making a left and going out that way. So there's scenario B. Scenario B1 includes a full site build-out and includes Eagle Rock Road realigned with the Wake Tech driveway that's currently under construction along Wendell Boulevard and contains the same road improvements as scenario B. Scenario C includes site build-out, the rail crossing for Wendell Valley Boulevard being constructed with some site trips exiting the site from the south. Also, Eagle Rock Road is realigned to Micro Measurements Driveway in scenario C. Scenario C also includes road improvements in scenario B and also an additional off-ramp lane on westbound I-87 at Wendell Falls Parkway. It's key to note the applicant's proposing a transit easement at the interior intersection of Wendell Valley Boulevard and the east-west road connection near Zone 2 in a location mutually agreed upon by the developer, Town of Wendell, and the transit provider. As bus service gets extended, in the draft bus plan, it shows Wake Tech getting service to the new campus in 2026, 2027 timeframe. The bus certainly could serve this site as well, and so having that transit stop is important for us as we think about the mobility of our residents. There's scenario B1's road improvements, scenario C's road improvements. Comprehensive plan. Blueprint Wendell 2030 classifies these parcels north of the rail line as innovation. Innovation is an area for industrial, manufacturing, research and development, flex space, retail, restaurants, lodging, breweries, and multifamily. Pretty much aligns with what their PUD document is trying to create as well. The proposal aligns with the uses, the building types within that innovation district classification. Improved open space. As well, the proposed development has included multi-use paths along the major roadways, as well as a dog park, pocket park, and a transit stop. As part of Blueprint 2030, the area around the proposed Wendell Commerce Center was part of a small area plan to include more details on future development. The image on the left is looking at that future intersection of Wendell Valley Boulevard and Wendell Boulevard looking south towards Wendell Falls. And so the site has a lot of characteristics that are in the small area plan for that area. It's key to note that we looked at larger geographic area than just that site. We looked at parcels across I-87 and also up towards Coyote and East Wake High as well. The parcels south of the rail line are classified as medium residential 2. The proposed project is comprised of residential units with a density of no more than 4 units for single family and 8 units for townhomes, which is consistent with the medium residential 2. Medium residential 2 contains language that new residential units be single-family detached, single-family attached, duplex, or townhome. Staff does feel the mix of unit type within the PUD is reasonable for a development of this size and contains conditions related to materials and design to address the appearance. The multifamily units, if built, would provide a transition to the townhomes and single-family housing units in Zone 4, as well as in nearby Wendell Falls. It's key to note that if there's more than the 336 multifamily units that are in the TIA, let's call it the second multifamily pod, would need to perform a TIA as well. And so moving forward, if Zone 4 comes in for a submittal for residential, even meeting all of the thresholds, they're going to have to do a TIA. So there's potentially a couple other TIAs that will need to be completed for full build out of this development. Statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. Any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent with the comp plan and is not reasonable in nature. The non-residential portion of the proposed project meets the characteristics outlined in the description of Innovation District place type as it relates to uses, buildings, street pattern, connectivity, and open space. The proposed development and rezoning are consistent with the medium residential living 2 category place type for the residential portion of the project, because the density falls within the range stated in the comp plan, and they'll have to comply with all of our open space requirements as well. So the statement of plan consistency and reasonableness. The plan is consistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030 and can be considered reasonable as it assists with various goals of the town. Economy, market, economic development. Our goal there is support development of key nodes where commercial uses can offer the most benefit. And we actually list I-87 and Wendell Boulevard as one of those locations. Economy, market, economic development, E37. Reduce retail leakage and increase spending on businesses here. Economy, market, economic development, focus on job creation, certainly does that. Economy, market, economic development, E33, create space, land, and buildings to meet varied demand. Neighborhoods and housing, NH3, diversify housing appeal to different groups. Having multifamily in a potential industrial office park and retail setting could create live-work units. People could work in the industrial park or office park and live nearby and actually walk to work. Having a transit node could get people around as well. Green space and Greenway Goal 2, expand the park Greenway Trail network by developing new facilities and connecting. Certainly having natural areas preserved and walking trails and having multi-use paths along major roadways contributes to that as well. Planning Board action. At their November 9th meeting, the Planning Board voted 8-1 on the motion to recommend approval of the rezoning request. Planning Board did ask for the condition indoor storage would not be permitted in zones 1 and 2. The developer agreed to that, and the PUD document has been adjusted to not allow indoor storage in zones 1 and 2. From a technical review committee, if this development is approved, once construction plans are submitted, they'll be forwarded to TRC for review and comment. TRC includes Wake County Environmental Services, City of Raleigh Utilities, NCDOT, and then all of the Town of Wendell departments as well, and also includes Wendell Fire and Wake County Fire Services. Neighborhood meeting was held virtually on October 21st, 2022. Minutes from that meeting are attached. Our staff recommendation for this proposed planned unit development rezoning is consistent with the Wendell Comprehensive Plan, Blueprint Wendell 2030, and is considered reasonable since it fulfills the goals listed in the previous slides of the comp plan, and therefore staff recommends approval. I can field any questions you have at this time. I do know we'll open it up for public hearing, but also the applicant has a PowerPoint as well.
All right, let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a few questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a couple questions, Brian. Going back to the scenarios that you laid out earlier, and I may have missed this, but what dictates which scenario is chosen again? With the transportations?
So the development of the project and the square footage and the timing of road improvements. So let me go, give me 1 second to get back. So let's just look at scenario B1's road improvements.
Okay.
So DOT has said to the town and the developer, if Eagle Rock Extension is not done to either Wake Tech or micro measurements or some location, they're not going to recommend having Eagle Rock closed. They don't want it rerouted through their site. They prefer that the Wake Tech entrance or micro measurements be the location for Eagle Rock being extended. And then Wendell Valley Boulevard can't open if Eagle Rock is still coming into that awkward intersection where it is today. Because Wendell Valley Boulevard, at the light where Eagle Rock comes in at an angle, traffic comes south on Rollsville Road. Wendell Valley Boulevard will go straight across that intersection towards Wendell Falls. That can't open if Eagle Rock is not readjusted.
So there's no way of knowing which option we chosen until the development is kind of, the timing is here and they kind of get into it then?
And the applicant can talk more about what portions of the property they expect to have under development first and what their intent is. I think on my slide, I did mention they obtain the right-of-way from the property owner for the extension of Eagle Rock to line up with Wake Tech entrance. They went out and did that. The town did not have to go out and spend money obtaining that right-of-way. We just need to determine what's the best route for Eagle Rock, working with NCDOT, because Eagle Rock and Wendell Boulevard are DOT roads. It's not just like a unilateral decision by the town. We have to include our partners of DOT and the development community.
Brian, you said we'd be better informed on that after the RFQ. Sorry. Commissioner, I was going to add, also a previous slide indicated that the town in its current budget has the design to look at both the alignment with Wake Tech or the micro measurements. Another development that we're working with secures the right-of-way to the micro measurements. This developer has already secured the right-of-way for Wake Tech. If their development does not happen prior to the town taking action, then the town is working with DOT to evaluate the two different locations and see which works best. Both in the town's mind are signalized intersections. If the intensity of development, which we want to happen quickly because that means job creation and the diversification of economy that the development's proposing is happening, triggers it, then the developer will utilize to work out that solution, and the town and DOT would be working with the developer in that case. So one is the process the town is already walking on. The other is development driven, depending on what the market and development of the site drives. But the town is prepared for either of those alignments and would be looking at a coordinated signal with the Rollsville Road signal so that the signals talk to each other and coordinate releases to prevent congestion. Does that further clarify? Okay. Thank you.
You good now?
Yeah, they got it.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Comments from the board? Okay, want to hear from the applicant?
Good evening, Mayor Gray and members of the board. I'm Matthew Carpenter with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh, here on behalf of the applicant, Oppidan Investment Company. And also with me tonight are Tim Brent with Oppidan, the applicant and developer, Michael Kane with Capital Civil Engineering, our civil engineer on the project, Nathan Romberg with VHB, Nathan's our traffic engineer, and then Hunter Howell with Valbridge Property Advisors, who's our appraiser. And so thanks for having us here tonight. We're excited to present to you our case for a 257-acre industrial mixed-use project. And first, I want to thank Brian and his staff for all their help along the way. This is one of the largest non-residential developments that Wendell has seen, and it's taken a lot of coordination with town staff. And so we really appreciate those efforts and all they've done to help us get to the hearing. And so, but before I get into our presentation, I'll kind of set the stage for the process, and then hand it over to Tim Brent to introduce himself and tell you about Oppidan. And so as Brian mentioned, this is the first of what's a two-part approval process for this project. And this portion is the legislative hearing for the rezoning to rezone the property to PUD. And that's probably what you're used to typically seeing with rezoning cases is a legislative hearing. But the second step is a little bit different. It will be an evidentiary hearing that's constrained by state statute and requires us to put forth evidence to show that we've met the showings required by the UDO for granting of the special use permit. And so I know there are several people here tonight to speak on the town's transportation plan, but I want to be very clear at the start that neither the rezoning nor the SUP are capable of amending the town's transportation plan or the UDO. So really what we're concerned about in both of these hearings is this project and the subject property. And then kind of in that same line of thinking, this project won't involve the construction of roads over any property that's not under the control of the developer. And so just wanted to clear that up before we get into it. And with that, I'll hand it over to Tim to give you the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Gray, board members. Appreciate you all's time tonight. My name's Tim Brent. I am the Executive Vice President of Oppidan Investment Company's Southeast office. I tell everybody I was born and raised in the South. It just happened to be in the south of Canada. I came to Raleigh in 2011 to play for the Carolina Hurricanes. Like many others, fell in love with the region, and my wife and I now live here and have raised two beautiful kids here, and excited to be in front of all of you tonight. I looked back in my emails, and the first conversation about this project was November 3rd of 2020. So we've put a lot of time and effort into this, and I hope you all will see that. A little bit about Oppidan. We're a 31-year-old family-owned development company, national development company headquartered out of Excelsior, Minnesota. I lead an office here in Cary, North Carolina. We also have an office in San Jose, California. About 30% of our business is industrial development. About 30% is multifamily senior housing. And then the rest is kind of data center work, retail. So we've kind of covered the spectrum of at least commercial development. I'll get into the project here. Wendell Commerce Center, something we're really excited about, and Matthew went through our project team, very capable group of people that specialize in a bunch of different things that will help make this project successful. So this kind of gives you an idea of how many parcels were put together to create what we call Wendell Commerce Center. And the idea of this holistically has been to bring industry and jobs and tax base to a extremely fast residential growing town of Wendell. So we'll get to a slide later that just has kind of stuck with me from reading it and really has kind of furthered my love of this project. You guys know where it is, extremely proximate to Raleigh. One of the most successful industrial projects probably in the region happened just up the road in Knightdale at Hodge Road, called Eastgate 540, and has seen just a tremendous amount of success. As most developers do, when we started to look at this property and the idea of this project, we started looking at what the town has envisioned for this area, and we quickly realized it goes back all the way to 2007, where the town has, really identified this particular corridor and this particular interchange as an opportunity to grow both industry and create a mixed use project. Again, talks. This is the 2007 vision for Wendell. I think the real interesting part about this is how consistent the town has remained, both in its transportation plan, but also in its vision for, again, this interchange and how really important it is for the town's growth and in particular through industry. Again, the growth vision through 2025 is consistent, and then ultimately through the 2030 blueprint plan. This is the comment, or this is the quote that has really stuck with me, and I think something that's real important to the town of Wendell going forward. That only 4% of Wendell's workers commute to jobs in town, and we would sure like to change that. Like I mentioned before, y'all are growing at a super fast pace residentially. You have a great labor force that today are leaving the town of Wendell to go to jobs. And we believe with this project we can keep them here in Wendell, bring people from other municipalities to come into Wendell and work and spend money here. Again, this is the 2030 blueprint plan. We have, like Matthew said, spent countless hours talking through what our vision has been with the town and making sure that we've kind of checked all the boxes off of what the town would like to see happen here in the future. Mr. Coates already mentioned a lot of these things, but we feel like it's worth bringing up how many of the town's goals we would meet in developing this entire project out. We're creating a lot of connectivity with road networks. We believe that given the location directly adjacent to I-87, a rail line on the backside of this property, it's poised and ready for industry. And we're doing this in other parts of the state. We've got 845,000 square feet over 4 buildings. First building is about to deliver in Apex, North Carolina. We have 4 buildings. We're starting the first 2 buildings in Hendersonville, North Carolina. That's going to total about 654,000 feet in an industrial park. We have another just under 800,000 square feet planned. We'll kick that off in May in Efland, North Carolina. We have 1 million square feet in Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. And that's just in the Carolinas alone. We've obviously got offices throughout the country that are doing all the same kind of projects. so I just want you to know this won't be the first time we're doing this, and we're doing these speculatively, and I think that's important to understand as well, because what we've learned through, I know it's one of the Towson schools is economic development, and what we've learned over time is really more than 80% of economic development projects land in buildings and not greenfield sites. So having a building to market for the town of Wendell is hugely important. And then the very obvious, you know, amenity to both Wendell and how, you know, certainly what this park would have is Wake Tech across the street. We talk, I've spoken to Matt Smith over there, and we just feel like what a great match with some of their manufacturing lab space, biopharma lab space that they plan on building over there. It would be a great amenity to any employer to locate in Wendell and have Wake Tech train their labor and their employees, and hopefully those are Wendell citizens. Again, Matthew from Parker and Poe explained this. I think it's important to go back over just because there were some questions on planning board as it relates to the road network. We've just put the roads where the town's comprehensive transportation plan said they should go. And I think not only did we want to do that for the town's well-being, but it was also because we had to meet the criterias in what will be the special use permit hearing. Again, looking through these, back to 2007, the road network was in place. 2016, the road network was in place. And then the Campos 2050 plan also shows the connections that we've proposed. Again, going back to some of your fast residential growth, all the projects slated in blue are either approved or in for approvals or in for hearings. And again, there's several developers who have already contemplated this road coming through, so it again made sense for us to show that. Wanted to circle again those smart manufacturing labs, biopharmaceutical labs that will be right across the road, and we all know how fantastic Wake Tech's programs are, and feel like it would be just a great partnership with us and them. Population demographics, you all probably know all these. These are some of our buildings, what you could expect. This is a little mixed-use project in downtown Apex that we've delivered on. Tenants are moving in there as we speak. This is the building delivering in Apex, and Blue Ridge is out in Hendersonville, North Carolina. This is another piece, and it's certainly not everything, but I think it's what we're trying to show as commitment to Wendell is this project will cost just under $350 million, and it's very likely, it's at least my understanding that this would be the largest non-residential project in Wendell, and we'd be sure proud to be the first people to do that. So again, I couldn't be more excited to be here. It's been a long time coming. As you can see, there's been a lot of people involved, both landowners and consultants on our side to get us to the point where we can stand in front of you and present this. And happy to answer any questions or bring up any of our consultants that can maybe better answer questions for y'all. So,
any questions from the board? Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the community that would like to speak in favor or in opposition of the project application tonight? Mr. White? I know you know, but give me your name and address.
Yes, ma'am. Paul White. I live on Lions Club Road. I'm a businessman here in Wendell, run Universal Chevrolet. I served on the planning board. I served on the Economic Development Committee for, 6 or more years. And the whole time we were working on this, we were looking at this area for this type of development. I had a little bit to do with putting Wake Tech where it is. I think that this development fits with Wake Tech being up there. I think they complement each other. I think this would create jobs for the community and a tax base for Wendell that we need. And I'm just here to speak in favor of the project. I also would like to mention, to the degree they can work together, that I also think a whole lot of the school that's next to it, and if there's any way to work with them so that their future plans work well with it also. I had to put that word in also. But I'm in favor of this project and think it would be something we've been needing for a long time. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Anyone else? Your name and address.
My name is Daniel Osborne from 1111 Hunters Grand Trail. I have an exhibit that I'd like to distribute to each of you.
Give it to the clerk.
Okay.
The pink right there.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I do want to come and point out that this public hearing is out of order and improper. And I've presented here to you the rationale for that. So according to North Carolina General Statute 160D-602, Section C requires posted notices to be prominently posted. And you can see that law there, Exhibit A, and I have highlighted the section of the law that requires that. Okay. The town of Wendell's notice that is put there off of Wendell Boulevard just past the 87 exit going toward town. It's an 18 by 24 sign with the words special use request printed in 2-inch letters and public hearing notice printed in 1.5-inch, 1.5-inch letters. The property for sale sign that is just next to it, and you can see that, by the way, you can see Exhibit B there with that sign and my measuring tape there, so you can see what I'm telling you is true. The next exhibit, Exhibit C, the for sale sign, that is a 48 by 48 sign. It has for sale in bold with 7-inch letters. The telephone number is 4 inches, twice the size of the largest letters on the public notice sign. In the 2008 case, Rakestraw versus Town of Knightdale, the courts upheld that Knightdale had given proper notice where they used a sign that was 36 inches by 24. Okay, that sign was twice the size of the sign the town of Wendell is using. Twice the size. Stop signs, by the way, they prominently show letters that are 10 inches high. Okay, the street sign from my neighborhood, Hunters Grand Trail, uses 6-inch letters for the words Hunters Grand, and then 3-inch letters for the trail, or you see there the state route. You can see there my measuring tape to prove that I did measure confirm that this is what it is, and this is because of the size that's required by the manual on uniform traffic control devices where speed limit is greater than 25 miles per hour. Okay? The common recommendation for letters that are to be seen 30 feet away is 3 inches. So, I let you know, I put you on notice, the town of Wendell's posted notice was clearly not prominently posted. Therefore, the town must reschedule a public hearing giving proper notice as required by North Carolina Statute, General Statute 160D-602. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, and town manager and clerk, and attorney. I'm Nate Ainge, and I'm 3012 Killarney Ridge Loop in Cary, North Carolina. I'm here tonight because I represent Southeastern Free Will Baptist College, the adjacent property to the project that is being voted on this evening for annexation. And I represent the college and its history here in Wendell for 35 years. My father was the first full-time president here that met with Ira Fuller, the town manager at that time, in 1987, and was invited to come to Wendell to move our campus from Virginia Beach, Virginia, to Wendell, North Carolina, which that transition was made, and all the town officials, along with Ira Fuller, helped to move the campus here, to choose the site, the 61 acres that is the east boundary for this property, and helped us to get the water and sewer hookup so that in March of that year, 1987, the invitation was given. In late September, early October, the campus opened with 5 buildings on that property to accommodate our students moving from Virginia Beach. Our faculty and staff sold their homes. They moved here, and now we represent the esteemed faculty and staff of 35 years. All of our graduates from Wendell are all over the world. They're all over America. And in fact, 2 members of the planning board after the vote the other day said, I was in Nebraska and eating in a restaurant and said, I'm from Wendell. And the person in the restaurant said, Wendell, I graduated from college in Wendell, which was Southeastern. Another planning board member recognized that his father had worked for members of our faculty and staff, esteemed members. So this is just a bit of the history. I met with Ira Fuller this week, and he certainly wants to see our campus continue to prosper. And as was mentioned by the representatives of Oppidan, that the road that has been in the transportation, and I'm speaking toward the transportation because I'm for the project. I want to see Wendell expand and grow. I'm excited about it bringing business.
I need you to wrap up your comments. Your time's up. I'm sorry.
Already? No.
Okay.
Okay, yes,
'cause
thank you. So, yeah, I agree that the project is a great project, and I agree with Paul White. I think it's one of the greatest things at Wendell, and it'll be great for our students, great for our faculty. But I'm concerned about the road transportation plan of Astromeda Road that is going east-west, that stops, if you'll notice on the drawing, and it'll be brought to your attention by the attorney, that it comes to our property, in the middle of our property, stops, and that's the optional developers later, and then on the other side of Eagle Rock Road, it continues. Well, obviously, it has to cut right through the middle of 61 acres of our property, cutting our 31 acres on one side, 30 on the other side, which would ruin our site plan. We have a site plan approved for all 61 acres to build out fully, and so that is my concern. And I'm asking the commissioners consider an alternate road plan that was submitted to the town in just an amendment within the last 2 weeks, and our attorney will draw that attention to that as well, which has the east-west road, but it doesn't go through the middle of our property. An alternate road to be considered for the road that is in their plan, not the ones outside of their plan. They're not concerned with those. But the one in the PUD does concern us because it stops right at the edge of our property, and we know future what that means. That either we can't build, because if we tried to build, we'd be forced to build that road, or it never gets built. Or you wouldn't want to go to condemnation and immediate domain. That's always an option, but you wouldn't want to go there because, I mean, here we are, your citizens and a part of your town, and we want that to be a good relationship. We do want to have a great relationship with Oppidum, and I think the alternate road plan would make that a possibility. So my time is ended. Thank you for listening, and I'll refer to Steve Berry, our Director of Development.
Give me one second. Mr. Berry's got a PowerPoint he'd like to give.
Good evening, Mayor Gray, Commissioners. My name is Steve Berry. I live at 1916 Lizard Lick Road in Zebulon. I meant to say this a while back, but I love this big pulpit as a preacher, but there's no real estate left for my Bible and notes. I feel a little like Adelaide Stevens tonight, needing to give a short speech, but a powerful speech. Over the last several months, I've tried to play catch-up, learning new vocabulary acrostics of CAMPO and UDO and TIAs and RFQs and quasi-judicial hearings and all of those things. I felt like a cancer patient with the doctors talking in a language I don't understand. Some may look at the application on hand tonight and believe that we are, as a town, deciding only on the approval or denial of a rezoning for a $350 million project. But we are deciding on much more. After reading all 151 pages of the application, supporting documents, and recommendation of staff, it leaves little doubt as to where this town staff are directing us all to go. I'm told by a community friend that I should smile, be kind, and let our lawyer be the strong one. I'm trusting that you all are going to represent us fairly, regardless of speakers' temperaments. The planning board encouraged us to speak with Tim Brent, which we have, and I'm sure he and I could enjoy a hockey game someday in the future. But the hockey game is nothing to do with my life's work. Wendell's road plan does affect my life's work. And every project that gets approved and completed puts that road unable to be amended or moved or rerouted. And your planners have assured us in our offices that we will pay for Astromeda Road to be built on our property, and that Wendell will withhold any and all of our permits until we do. Tonight I want to show you a few of the images of Wendell Commerce Center that have not been highlighted in this hearing. And first of all is our campus, our master plan as we have drawn it out. And then what Mr. Brent showed us in our office many weeks ago, months ago, and the road that would cut across our property. There it is a little closer, and there's what they're drawing and their road as it matches up. This road takes out about 5 to 6 possible buildings for us, from women's residence halls to 3 academic buildings as well as our library. And so it just seems untenable as an option for us to be able to look at this. Since you two are representatives of us, I'm going to ask you for a few things. Number one, Oppidum's TIA substantiates that it does not need Astromeda Road to handle the traffic that Wendell Commerce Center will produce. Will you please ask Mr. Brent if Oppidum believes Wendell Commerce Center views Astromeda Road as a necessary road for their project? Number two, nothing has been mentioned in the 151 pages to secure that Astromeda Road name will be changed. Everyone in earlier meetings seemed to be in agreement that is offensive to us. Astro, relating to the stars, Meta, cunning deception. So a road running right through our property named like that, but nothing in this document has kind of secured. Everybody seems to be running from that name, but nobody has put it in the documents to say that we'll secure that. Number three, nothing has been stated in the 151 pages that there will not be a brewery or distillery, although the applicant has agreed before you to forgo those uses, but it's been left out when it came to us tonight. Will you please require that in writing before approval? Number 4, whoever is inclined to make the motion for approval of the rezoning of the 257 acres, please include that the town and the staff is directed to never withhold a permit from Southeastern Free Will Baptist College for the purpose of forcing them to build Astromator Road on their property. And number 5, whoever is inclined to make the motion for approval of the rezoning of the 257 acres, please include that Southeastern Free Will Baptist College, a nonprofit educational institution, will never be coerced or forced to build Astromator Road at Southeastern's expense. Thank you for your consideration on all these things.
Madam Mayor, I've got a question, if it's appropriate. Just the map that he showed is the first time I've seen that map. Would you mind showing the map with y'all's plan on it? So the red line, it represents Astromeda?
Yes.
Okay. And if this was a satellite picture, what's there today? I'm trying to get my orientation of where the campus is to.
Okay, can I turn my thing off here? So currently, we have built out these buildings here. So classroom, dormitories, the Patty Lee House is our library now, our campus corner, cafeteria, and then our gymnasium classroom building here. We do have some married student housing somewhere right in here already. But these are our designs, which goes back to 2001. Not much has changed. There'll be some addition down in here, but as far as the dormitories and things, all the way throughout and around the field, this was something that was put together in 2001 as our master plan. It's just a little more developed now. And we are at a place now with a 28% growth in our student body this year, as well as financial investors coming on board. We hope to see our mission expand. This world certainly needs more people going into the community.
Thank you, that helps me
Okay. Thank you.
imagine where it's at.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. My name is Ben Kuhn, Kuhn.
Do you want me to pull
Yes,
your
sir.
PowerPoint up?
Thank you very
I
much.
need to get in here.
Pardon me. I'm with law firm Ragsdale Liggett in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm here with Mr. Berry and Mr. Ainge on behalf of Southeastern Free Will Baptist College, and I've got a short presentation. My purpose is to kind of just outline and discuss with you what we have done, which is we filed a zoning text amendment packet with the town seeking to change the road plan. Originally, I filed one of these. If I may present. Thank you. Originally, we had filed one of these with respect to a change to the comprehensive plan, but when looking at the town website, you couldn't tell that the comprehensive plan had been changed in the last 2 months. And apparently, the transportation plan is now part of your UDO, which now requires a UDO amendment. So we have filed an application for a UDO amendment to change the road plan. And here's why. And in light of this project, and also because I think it actually works better for the surrounding community. It starts out with the blueprint Wendell, and talks about these focus areas, 4 focus areas, one of which is the Wake Tech area. And it talks about the following concepts for the Wake Tech area are not intended to be rigidly prescriptive or disallow other design elements. And that's what I want to talk about is, you see these transportation plans, you see these lines, it doesn't mean it has to be mathematically exactly just like it's shown in that road plan. And if it does, then you also look around it to see if there's other roads that you can make use of without having to go through somebody else's property unnecessarily and mess up or substantially interfere with their development plans. It's to provide guidance for private and public actors to use as examples of designs that bring value to all parties, including the larger community, of course. So, here is that plan in your blueprint, and it says in subsection D, which is this matter right here, this north-south road here, it focuses on providing a north-south route connecting Wake Tech to the activity center at the heart of Wendell Falls community, as well as points in between. Why is that important? Well, there's that north route route that just showed there in the green line right there. But there is no mention suggesting any east-west connector across the property in your gateway plan. It actually focuses on north-south connectors. And there's, I think, a reason when you look at the mapping as to why. You can even see here, superimposed on that with the southeastern Free Will Baptist College property to the left, there's no road that actually goes up or is shown going up to the property. That's why we've submitted, because of this, an alternative road plan that we believe has substantial merit. Here's what it is existing, and you can see the magenta line that goes across from Eagle Rock and it goes across the property, which is this property right here. We propose a different road plan that would take that road for an east-west connection up Eagle Rock, take a little bit off the front of the church, college property, as well as the Bell Southville property there, just a small amount, and would provide east-west connection, but not bisect a 61-acre college campus. And here's why I think that makes even more sense. Well, here it is right here, based on that map previously, and it shows that little magenta dotted line coming over, which provides the east-west connection into that development. What I'll also show you is this. This is what we had our engineer look on and outline a plan that we think might work really well and provide the east-west connection, and more importantly, the north-south connection that's focused in your plan, as what this area needs is more and better north-south connections. I will note to you that the north-south connection in this Commerce Center doesn't go north-south because it stops at the railroad track. Our plan is this, okay? First of all, you see the Peyton subdivision in blue on the right. You see the old Tarboro Road townhomes right there in yellow. And you see subdivision plans that have been submitted suggesting that a road goes through those subdivisions and and then goes to Eagle Rock. The fact of the matter is it doesn't, or at least unless there's been funding from the town to get between the two subdivisions. Let's look at the old Tarboro Road townhome subdivision. If you look at that red area right there, it stops. That's Astro Meadow right there. It stops right there because there is wetlands, a road that would in the future go across that area, as well as a stream buffer that you would have to cross. Now, I don't know if the town's got this in their budget, that the town's going to pay for crossing that stream buffer, but this subdivision applicant doesn't have it in their plan, and they're not going to build it for you. So there's a hole in that road, and that's even shown on the Peyton subdivision plan as well. So you see that's the Astromeda Road that would go over, but it doesn't connect to the other subdivision unless there's funding somewhere that's going to be paying for this wetland and stream crossing, which I don't know whether there is or not. Maybe there is. But between those two subdivisions, there's going to be a break because nobody's paying for that. And I'm wrapping up fairly quickly here. So this is the plan we think that makes sense because it does provide the north-south connection from Wendell Boulevard down Eagle Rock Road that actually gets to Wendell Falls. It actually gets there. And I understand there's actually road improvements that are proposed down towards the bridge that will make that road more passable, and that I think it's actually there's funding available to it from Campo, from them. But so we think that road network makes much more sense. It would provide the interconnectivity that's needed east-west, provides actual north-south interconnection with the roadway that I understand that Oppidan has gotten the right-of-way for that connection between Old Tarboro and Wendell Boulevard. So that is something that could be done, and that would be helpful for the north-south connection. The east-west connector across Southeastern Free Will Baptist Church property is devastating to their plans for the future. And that's why we filed the text amendment. So if you focus on the Wake Tech area, the comprehensive plan says to provide a north-south route connecting Wake Tech to the activity center at the heart of Wendell Falls community, as well as points in between. But the only current south route that will connect to the area to anything at the Wendell Falls community is the route following Eagle Rock to the south, then across the railroad tracks along Martin Pond, which then connects to Wendell Falls Parkway. The proposed north-south road within the Commerce Center PUD does not connect to the Wendell Falls community because of the railroad tracks, if it ever will. Hopefully the town or DOT or the railroad or somebody will pay for it, but I don't believe they're proposing to pay for it, nor the Wendell Falls developer to pay for it. So that is a dead end at this point for the foreseeable future. The alternate road plan that we've outlined in our proposed text amendment that'll be coming before you in the coming weeks and month or so, it proposes solid north-south connections down Eagle Rock from Wendell Falls, from Wendell Boulevard to Wendell Falls Parkway via Eagle Rock. There are funds available through Campo for improvements to that roadway towards the south where the bridge is, and it seems like that would be a north-south connection that would be worthy of pursuing, and that's what our alternative road plan that we submitted for you, that will be coming to you for review and approval. And that's why we think this needs to be taken into consideration in all of these matters, is that there is an alternate road plan that we want you to seriously consider because we think it makes sense. And if you go back to the very beginning, and I'll close with this. The blueprint Wendell plan is a blueprint. It's a guide. It's not rigidly prescriptive. It doesn't disallow other design elements. So this other transportation plan that doesn't ruin a college campus and can provide the connectivity from the east, from the east to the west to this PUD, it works. And we're happy to do what we can, the church, to facilitate that, working with Oppidan and others and the town, but they just want your concern and understanding for what the existing transportation plan that currently shows this road going through the middle of their property would do if you actually approved a site plan that showed that road on a site plan. I understand we're not here for site plan, but that comes down the road, and that's why we're laying the framework and the groundwork here to file a text amendment to change that plan, and we'd like to frankly have not only the town, but Oppidan and everyone else support it, because it makes sense, not just for my client and Southeastern, but we think for the entire area to provide a better transportation alternative. And I know we're not here to say this is zoning and annexation shouldn't happen, but these are concerns that do come into your consideration in terms of the policies that go into place. This isn't a rigid on the piece of paper, so it has to be just like this. It is a guideline. It is a guide. It is a policy that you are to consider. And there's nothing surveyed as to where that road goes straight through a property. You could take it all the way up Tarboro Road, just like we've outlined an alternative road plan, and get the same type of connectivity without having the terrible impacts it would have to the college property. And for that, we'd request your consideration and attention in the days and weeks to come, so you can consider that and make sure everybody in your community can prosper and can develop and build out the community that you all want to live in. And that's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hi, my name is Caitlin Gooch. My address is 3002 Poinsettia Lane, Wendell, North Carolina, 27591. Good evening, everybody. I'm the founder of nonprofit Saddle Up and Read here in Wendell. I give away books and I encourage kids to read by using equine-assisted activities. I was recently inducted into the Wake County Public School System Hall of Fame for community service. I'm a part of this community. I live off of Knightdale Eagle Rock Road. My family has horses here. I'm from the town that formerly known as Eagle Rock. My family has been here for decades. I'm 29 years old, and Wendell Falls is directly behind our farm and beside it. The growth of this town is not something I'm entirely against. My concerns are with the speed of this growth. It does not seem as if long-life citizens are being heard, and it does not feel fair. What is the rush? There are accidents at high traffic spots almost monthly, especially at the intersection of Knightdale Eagle Rock Road.
How are the proposed roadway plans going to impact that, and what is the consideration for wildlife in detail? What are the plans for collaborating with the neighbors of the developments? The neighborhood meeting that was mentioned tonight is the first time that I've ever heard of it, and again, I'm a part of this community. The development is around me. Existing residents want their privacy, and the buffers that were mentioned tonight mean absolutely nothing if there's no consideration for the people who are already living there. 20 feet is not enough, in my opinion. I think that there should be better planning and more inclusive planning. There are citizens aside from me who are concerned, but town meetings are intimidating. This is my first time ever speaking at one. Not to mention, there are language barriers for a lot of our citizens. Look at who is in this room today. This is not a diverse reflection of our town or the residents in the proposed area. All voices are not being heard, and I think that's something you all should consider. I have yet to see any representation for disabled people at any of the meetings that I have watched, especially during this proposed planning as well. Please table this request and reschedule this hearing and do some deeper diving into the community. I am here, I'm willing to help. Also, there were 2 very small signs, which someone mentioned earlier, for this public hearing of 257 acres worth $348 million. Thank you.
Anyone else? Your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Heather Osborne. I live at 1111 Hunters Grand Trail. I am in the rural area that we are claiming is not quite so rural, but actually it is a very rural area right now. It is R30, most of this area, and this is great change that has come within the last few years since Wake Tech started and the Glennon and all these other things. So I'm speaking to say that this permit and this annexation should not be passed right now because it does not meet criteria for, it's creating a public safety hazard to neighborhoods and different things like that. And the reason is because approximately 600 acres are under construction or proposed construction in this area currently, okay? And that's within, just a few years. It started with Anderson Farms, then Wake Tech, then the Glennon, now is Peyton Place. Old Tarboro Townhomes was at the planning board meeting last week, and also now Oppidan as well. There are so many things going on in this area that it is not enough time. Oppidan may eventually come and they may be able to build, but it is not the right time for this. There is construction everywhere, and all of this is associated with the Buffalo Creek watershed. Buffalo Creek is right there. All of these developments are along the watershed and along the creek. Also, the bridge, Old Battle Bridge, it will be completed. Construction begins this spring, and it will be ended in May 2023, and it will open November 29th. I have an email from VDOT that says that. Or not VDOT, I used to live in Virginia, NCDOT, sorry. NCDOT that says when the bridge will open. So when Old Battle Bridge will open, which we've waited on for 7 years, then we are going to create road hazards at the intersection of Nightdale Eagle Rock Road, Old Battle Bridge, Martin Pond, and that intersection is going to become another problem in this area. We also do not know, as they stated, what the result of the where Eagle Rock will realign. Okay, that is unknown. We don't know if Wendell Valley Boulevard will ever cross the railroad, and if it doesn't ever cross the railroad, Estromeda Avenue won't matter because no one will be going down Wendell Falls. We don't know about the Eagle Rock widening. So there's a proposed 4-lane widening on the 2050 Campo plan. You say that's so far away. However, in the planning board meeting last week, Mr. Coates recommended and said he recommended to Old Tarboro Townhomes, which is a proposed development, that they turn their houses around because you wouldn't want somebody stepping out onto a 4-lane. Okay, well, Hunters Grand Trail also intersects Eagle Rock Road, and if the road, Eagle Rock Road, is not moved over, it will take out citizens that have been there for 25 years. 2 houses are in the right-of-way if we make that a 4-lane, okay? That's not right. It's not right to say, hey, you know, let's build these townhomes, and then when it comes, you know, 25 years from now, who's gonna win? A row of townhomes or 2 houses? That's not right for the town to not take in consideration citizens that already live here, just to make money. And let's see, anything else? I just think, you know, construction everywhere is not good for the area, and we need to slow down and coordinate. When you call, and I have called around to NCDOT, and I've called around to the bridge people, no one really actually, I mean, they do talk to each other at these meetings, but I will say that none of us have ever talked to you because we live in Wake County, and we did not realize we actually lived in the town of Wendell. We didn't know that you were controlling us, because when I just built my house last year, I dealt with Wake County. I did not deal with the town of Wendell. I am not in your ETJ, and none of this area is, and we don't have citizen representation. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Celeste Perkins. I live in 1613 Chestnut Falls Road in Wendell Falls. Wendell Falls so far is a great community, and it's one of the expansions of Wendell. So I'm grateful for that expansion, but I work for the federal government, and in Washington, D.C., but I'm from a little small town east of here called Williamston, North Carolina. I was born and raised. So I've been working in Washington, D.C. for the past 25 years, and with COVID, we had a chance to work remotely. And so when I picked out this location, or my realtor picked out Wendell, it was because of the small town feeling that I had from like Williamston. We want to keep our small towns, and we don't want all this expansion. I mean, it's okay to grow some, but, you know, I moved here because D.C. was so congested. I mean, I'm from here, but I saw D.C., living in D.C., the main reason I wanted to move back home was because it was so congested and traffic, and it was so stressful. That's the main thing, because D.C. is a nice area. But to say that I'm coming back home to more of this, or when I'm building roads and taking away this small town feel, it just doesn't seem right like the other people say it. And I think you all should think about this more. And I wanted to speak because I've been away for 25 years, and I love the small town of Wendell, but these people coming in talking about building all this and building all that, and then it's taking away our wildlife, our you know, the animals don't have anywhere to go, and we're supposed to be going more green to save the environment, and, you know, for climate control. So I just want to say that, and, you know, we need to really kind of slow down this growth and let us keep our small town. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Martha Heinley. I live at 505 Oak Deer Lane. I am inside of the Wendell city limits. I moved here 19 years ago in October. Matter of fact, I closed October the 1st, 2003. And I've enjoyed living in Wendell. I moved out of Raleigh because I didn't want to be in Raleigh. And like the lady before me said, I went to D.C. I came home too. You know, I grew up here, graduated high school here, left, came home, and Raleigh was turning into mini D.C. And when I bought my house, I bought it out here. And systematically, the small town feel of Wendell has been flushed. The infrastructure can't handle the additional traffic where they put all the houses in. And with it has come more inconsiderate drivers. I had seen a thing on Facebook about the lines in the road indicating you got to stop for pedestrians. and they had tried to put a sign up, but the guy told them, no, this is what it's supposed to do. Well, they don't read the signs. They sure ain't gonna stop for the lines in the road because they don't care. They're not looking, they're not stopping, they're going through neighborhoods like nobody's business. And what can we do? You know, it was a small town feel where people had consideration for each other, and systematically that's going down the tubes too. Take some time, let's look at the infrastructure, and worry about the infrastructure for a little bit before you go into massive building. Because if you don't fix the roads and you don't fix the infrastructure, then you got a worse cluster than what they have down in Raleigh. You know, it was great. I moved out here, and I wasn't here 5 years, I don't think, before they sold the water system over to Raleigh. I didn't appreciate that either. But what could I do? So I decided to come to the town meeting so that I could have a say. And you may not listen, and that's okay too, but at least I spoke my piece and I stood up for myself. You know, I've been paying pretty much the same taxes since I moved here. Hadn't seen what anybody really did with them except pay some wages around here and build a new Parks and Rec building over there. They sold out all those condos they put out there, were all owned by an investment company. That's not helping that lady, it's not helping me. Those people are charging outrageous amounts, almost $2,000 a month for those condos. You know, I want neighbors that are gonna be there for a little while. Not somebody that has to move 10, 11 months from now because they're going up on the rent again. And when we buy our houses, we expect to have our neighbors for a little bit anyway. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you. I'm Sid Baines. I live at 3900 Wendell Boulevard. I've got a lot of empathy for the comments of the people that have made tonight. I understand those feelings. I've also followed Wendell for a long time. We moved here when I was 7 years old. That's a pretty good while ago. I've seen Wendell as a vibrant town when we were young. Paul White and I graduated high school together. We had all of 36 people in our graduating class. It wasn't long, though, before the town began to die, quite frankly. And when I was running for the town board a number of years back, a friend of mine came to me and said, Sid, you're crazy. Let me show you what Wendell's going to look like. I said, what is it going to look like? And he named a few towns to the east that I won't name tonight, but they're all dying. He said, Wendell is going to die. There's going to be a war one day between Knightdale and Zebulon, and the loser is going to have to take Wendell. I said, I don't believe that. Wendell's got a future. And the reason it's got a future is because there have been a number of visionaries in this town. And I think you're carrying on that line right now. You're doing a wonderful job as commissioners and as mayor, and you're carrying us into a positive future. I heard Mr. Brent speak of the history of this intersection in this area out there, all the way back to '07. Well, I remember it as a child. As we'd go to Person County to visit my father's family, we'd come back, and when I saw the Martin Center area, I was in Wendell as far as I was concerned. Everybody seemed to know that that was an important place. It was a place with a future. And the town, I think probably Lucius was mayor at the time, began to try to move in that direction because we knew the highway was coming. What was called Knightdale Bypass, which is now I-87. I like that better. I like Knightdale, but I like I-87 better. The town actually adopted a policy and developed a plan in '03, developed through the assistance of some engineers to aggressively move the town in that direction. The plan was to annex properties all the way from here to there. Now that didn't work. There were some reasons that it didn't work, some good, some maybe not so good. But our property, we've got a little piece of property out there that's bordered by the section of Eagle Rock Road that's going to be closed. Some of the town board members, the town manager, the town planner came to us as a family and said, we would appreciate it if you'd let us annex this property to help in this endeavor. So we said, go ahead and do it. They said, you'll have water and sewer in 2 years. Well, we know we don't have water and sewer yet, and we have been paying the town taxes. But you know what? That's been a benefit to me, because every time I've needed something from this town, I've been able to go to them and get it. I was not able to do that with the county, and I like the county, but I like Wendell better. All I'm saying is we've recognized the importance of this property for decades, really. And there are lots of reasons not to do things. The easiest thing in the world is find a reason not to do something. I'm impressed by people who find reasons and find ways to get things done. And you are the people that can do that. And I'm looking to you to do that. I know there are ideas, I know there are concerns, but none of these ideas and concerns can't be worked out. Let's have a meeting of the minds and get it done, but let's do not slow down this project. 15 or so years ago, Carter was involved with that, Carter Kennemer. The county approached us, the economic development arm of the county. They wanted to create a certified site there. They said, this is the last green frontier in Wake County. This is one of the most important sites in the entire county. Now, this is an outside expert coming into our little town and telling us what we needed to do with that important property. We gathered lots of facts and figures. It didn't work, and the reason it didn't work is because we here in Wendell, we're going to have to come up with the money to create all this infrastructure that someone from outside of town now is going to provide for us. I know we grow fast sometime, but I tell you, we've not grown fast out there because, again, we've been looking at this for decades and trying to do something with it. If we do, Wendell is never going to have the money to do the infrastructure that we'd like to have. We're going to have to depend on outside developers. Let's don't miss this opportunity. Everything may not be ideal, but it can be worked out. But I do know that somebody else will pick up on this opportunity if we let it slide. Don't let it slide by. I don't think growth has come rapidly to this town. It has come more rapidly in the last few years, but it's been a long time coming. So let's don't slow it down now. Let's find out what we can do to make it continue. I am concerned about my little 350 feet of road frontage out there along the stretch of Eagle Rock Road that's going to be closed. But I'm looking at that from a positive perspective. And rather than saying, oh my, I'm going to lose my road frontage, I'm saying I hope this developer is going to put in water and sewer infrastructure that I can access. I see the sewer line on the map. I'm not sure about the water line. Let's look at this stuff in a positive manner and not a negative manner. And I know I've probably gone over my time, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else? Yes?
Good evening. I'm Sandy Morgan. I live on 7517 Lake Mire Road, Wendell. Born and raised here, went to all the schools around here. I do feel like we need to slow down a little bit. I'm not against growth, but we need to slow down and fix some of our roads that are so congested, especially like the Pool Road, Wendell Falls Cross, you can't turn. I refuse to go that way. I work in Wendell. I live in Wendell. My kids go to school in Wendell. It makes it hard, some of the things that I've seen of what direction we're going in as far as roads. I'm concerned about buses. We're already having trouble with bus drivers. When you start changing a lot of these routes, you're going to make them longer. I'm worried about the teenagers who are driving. I got one coming, about to get his license. I'm worried about him driving to East Wake and what these routes are going to do without lights. I just want you to consider that, and just slow this project down a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Regina Harbin, 6616 Tails Branch Road. So many people have said so many wonderful things here tonight. It's hard to keep them all straight, but I've said over and over again, I don't want to stop growth. I just want growth to be done a little bit better. And so many people made so many good points tonight. And here's a great example. something like this, a project like this comes before the board, and there's so many components to it that you guys get it, 3 days ago, and then you're made to vote on it tonight. Take a little time to look at this. Take a little time to really delve into it. Put it on hold for a little while. The lawyer from the church came up here, and he brought up so many great points, and he literally gave options. Well, if he hadn't have been here to give those options, would anybody else have even thought about them or considered them, or would you have just pushed this through? So this is the thing that I'm the most proud of when it comes to like Brian, our town manager. He literally puts a lot of thought into all this. But when things come up here, there's so much to be said that sometimes it takes a little while for you to digest it and figure out the other questions you want to ask. And maybe Brian, not intentionally, is leaving anything out, but maybe he's only telling you certain things that are kind of directing you towards an answer that he wants to hope to get for these developers. But you got to remember that you're here for the people of Wendell as well as the business leaders that are coming to Wendell. And honestly, for you to slow down just a little bit is not a bad thing. You know, to take these projects and really delve into them and look at them from all angles. That's what I've been saying for 5 years now. Slow down, look at each project, take your time on it. Make sure we're doing what we need to do for the town of Wendell. I want growth. I own several businesses in this town, but I don't want growth at the effect that it's going to harm us down the road and certain things aren't going to be able to work or get done. Okay? And we're finally getting a lot of citizens to show up and tell you the same thing. And we hope that you guys are finally listening. You know, I'm not saying say no to the project. I'm saying, okay, project, let's give it a little bit more thought. You know, if they really want to do this, they'll be here 30 days from now. If they really want to do this, any project, they'll be here 60 days from now. An individual come up here a while ago and said that, you know, we could have gotten swallowed up by Nightdale or Zebulon and we could have, you know, gone away. That was never going to happen. No matter what was going to happen in the state of North Carolina, Wendell was always going to be Wendell. You know, whether we're the small town big charm or what people are calling us right now, no charm Wendell, that kind of thing. We want growth. We want to grow, and we want you guys to lead us into the future. But we also want you to take the time to do it and make sure that you're looking at all aspects. And just don't bring something up here and vote on it that night. You know, give it some time. You know, really look into it. Because that's all you guys have been doing for the past 2 years. Something comes up, you pass it. Something comes up, you pass it. Well, we're now at a point to where so much has come up and so much hasn't been built and we're already having issues. What are we going to have another year from now as things do get built? So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the hard work that Brian and our town manager and everybody does put into these projects. He does put a lot of effort into them, but sometimes not all the questions get asked or answered. Thank you very much before you cut me off.
I was getting ready to say, you need to keep your comments, not directed towards any individual employee or town staff or board member, please. Yes, ma'am.
You know, this is our main concern, is that we...
I know you already have, but can you give us your name and address again, please, ma'am?
I'm Edie Nowell. I live at 1016 Lakeland Road, Wendell. All we're asking is for this board to listen to the residents of Wendell. I saw it there a while ago. It's called growth management. Do you know how to manage things? You kind of keep it in line. We're still waiting for the turn lane on Eagle Rock Road for Wendell Falls. We hadn't got that yet. How long is it going to take to get the bridge on Lake Glad Road for the 3 subdivisions that you've already started on Lake Glad Road? Would you listen to the citizens of Wendell that voted to put you in office? That's all we're asking, is manage it. Don't just pop. We're not against development, but give me a Eagle Rock Road out there and a turn signal to get my grandson to Roseville Road and to East Wake High School, and again, in come January, he'll be driving, that he doesn't have to cross 3 lanes, make a U-turn, go 3 lanes to get over to Roseville Road. All we're asking, listen to your citizens, would you please?
Anyone else? No. No clapping. Not permitted. Would anyone else like to speak? All right, are there any more comments from, would the applicant like to add anything else? All right, board, questions from the board?
I've got some questions.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and I guess this is maybe for the applicant here. Could you talk a little bit about Zone 4 that was on your map?
What would you like to know specifically?
Hoping you would just know what I was going to ask. So just Zone 4 in general, I understand kind of what the goal is for it, the plan is for it. A lot of being that it's kind of on the other side of the railroad tracks, is that going to be a connectivity coming across the tracks? Is that going to be more from the Nightdale Eagle Rock Road?
Yeah, it would be from Nightdale Eagle Rock Road,
okay.
With the railroad bisecting the properties there, and this goes back to the landowners who own that property ultimately had both Nightdale Eagle Rock and the rail line run through their properties. So that's what it's one landowner that owns both sides of the rail. So we just felt like there was an opportunity to kind of move into more of a residential node, as you would call it, I guess,
okay.
on the south side of the railroad.
And that helps, because I guess I was trying to figure out the kind of the connectivity to this. I'm visualizing as a commercial project, and then I'm visualizing as this little residential appendage here that's just being kind of pushed into it. So I was trying to kind of find the connection there. So it's almost just kind of brought in with it a little bit there too, but not really direct. I would say physical connectivity as far as walkability or anything like that.
It's non-contiguous to the commercial portion of the property.
There you go. Well said.
Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions? Anyone else on the board?
A couple. Yeah, I've got a couple questions of Brian, if you don't mind. Brian, could you speak to the road alignment, the road naming, how that process flows, and any other thoughts you have there on that?
Yep. So the road naming, the road received its name when D.R. Horton originally received their approval for Anderson Farm. They picked a constellation theme for that subdivision. D.R. Horton has submitted paperwork to Wake County to change those names, and so it is the intent that Astromeda will not be the name of that collector road. We are supportive of D.R. Horton's request to eliminate that name. The constellation name for the subdivision actually makes it difficult for residents. They're tricky spellings. And D.R. Horton, their representatives today that are working on that subdivision don't find the street names appealing for many reasons, and so they've requested a name change. And so we don't have confirmation from Wake County Addressing, who approves all street names in the county, for what that new name will be, but it's in process. But it will not be Astromeda, according to D.R. Horton's reps, and we support that as a town staff. The collector location, that roadway is being constructed currently by Anderson Farm, and Peyton Place has received their preliminary approval. Their construction drawing approval is in process, but those two developments have been approved. Old Tarboro, as was mentioned, was at Planning Board last week. Anytime a road does not go to the property line, it will come before you for a fee in lieu request. And any fee in lieu request for a road extension that doesn't go to the property line, they need to submit engineering paperwork to show the cost of building that segment of road, but also any environmental features that would involve environmental permits for wetland crossing or disturbance as well. If Old Tarboro gets approved, they would have to come back to you with a fee in lieu request or construct that road, that last portion. The location provides an east-west connector there. I know there was talk about widening Old Tarboro. Old Tarboro in Anderson Farm and Peyton Place has been approved to be a 52-foot right-of-way, which is a local street for us, so one lane each way. In Anderson Farm, the townhomes face that local street. They're all alley loaded. That road can't be adjusted. Those plans are under construction or approved. I don't know how we would go back to a developer and say, hey, we want your road moved, or we want it to be 4 lanes instead of 2. The collector really serves as interconnectivity from the Anderson Farm area, SPC area over. If we in the future rely on our main 4-lane roads and you have to use Wendell Boulevard or you have to use Wendell Falls Parkway to get around this town, it will not work. We need those collectors for connectivity for cars, pedestrians, bicyclists. Similar roadways, for example, Wendell Falls Phase 10 and 11 off Wendell Valley Boulevard have that collector road that will extend over to Eagle Rock with other developments or potential. And so we're always constantly planning for those connections. They're key to move people and traffic around. I think we see that. Yeah. So the ones in the line in blue have approvals invested. Anderson Farm is under construction. The orange small segment you see here is Old Tarboro that's in review, went to planning board last month, will be coming to you in the near future. And then Oppidan is building this orange arc, which will actually connect to Wendell Boulevard. So they provide key emergency access, they provide key movement around a region without getting on the major arterials. They're important for our future as a town as we consider movement of all kinds.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
That answers my question.
Can I piggyback on that? Explain this, the gap you have here between the proposed and the under construction. Was that the fee in lieu that you were just speaking of?
Between the orange and light blue, yes.
Correct.
Yep. And so you as a board will come back to them, if Old Tarboro gets approved with that gap, they need to then submit a fee in lieu request that comes back to you, and you either tell them they have to build the road, or we'll accept the fee in lieu and it'll get constructed at a future time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where is the college in there on this sheet?
College is between the 2 orange areas.
And there's no way to move that around for them?
There has been different ideas. One of them was to make Old Tarboro that connection, which would put an intersection very close to Wendell Valley Boulevard and Wendell Boulevard. They did submit a text amendment last week to us, last Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll go through a review process. We'll include our TRC members, engineering, our contract engineering, and also NCDOT for comments and review. And we'll go through a due process, planning board and you, for a text amendment.
How will that affect what we have in front of us tonight? Or are those?
For example, if you, months down the road, approve their text amendment, we would potentially work with Oppidan to maybe adjust any plans that they have. Our intent, DOT is usually not a fan of a major 4-lane roads meeting and then literally 500 feet away another intersection. So when I initially look at some of the proposals to change that, it's very close to Wendell Boulevard and intersections, and I'm not sure of how viable those alternatives are. There was also another alternative where the road ran down parallel to the rail line and was going to cut into Hunter's Grand subdivision, which, taking a 79-foot roadway and running it into a 20-foot paved DOT road is usually not a good option for movement of traffic through a residential neighborhood. So it also then limits potentially the site for industrial development.
So my concern is with this, with the deal is that I mean, generally, favor the project. I have concerns with, as the, gentlemen from the, Southeastern Free Will Baptist College have stated that, while I know we're not building a lane through their particular area, limiting what they could potentially do in the future, it does bother me a little bit. I don't know where the board stands on that a little bit. I mean, as far as their site plan that they showed, Brian, is that a site plan just internally for them, I guess? Is that a site plan that they've, I don't want to say dreamed up, because that's not very respectful, but something they've kind of just put together kind of as their idea?
Yeah, it's their internal document. Nothing has been submitted to Wake County or the town of Wendell for a site plan review. There's been no annexation request. They have existing water and sewer on site that when they built those original buildings, they did not have to annex. Today's policy, any new buildings on their campus connected to water and sewer would require annexation into the town and a rezoning and a site plan. And none of that has occurred to date.
And they're correct by stating that if they did any building onto their property, then they would have to construct that road. Is that correct?
It depends on the scope of their project and where it's located.
Okay.
There's certainly land that is north of that potential collector. If plans are submitted, we'll certainly review them, but the property would need to be annexed. We need to apply zoning, and then we could review site plans for consistency with town of Wendell regulations. It depends on the scope of the project, and when we have official submittals. There's nothing for us to really comment on because it's just a sketch plan and a video.
But if
there's no
if they
official.
don't build anything, it just sits there. So
Correct.
that road just dead ends forever, so it's no good anyway.
Well, there's some options in the future if the property ever got sold and someone else wanted to build something, or the town could actually finish the road as well. We could work with current property owner or future to build that road in the future as well. I mean, there's options.
Yeah.
There's not, so options don't just include moving the road, it can be the design of the physical road built. So one option is, instead of what's shown on the transportation plan, is it a divided two-lane? So a median divided two-lane that has more of a pedestrian-centric that'd be suitable for a college campus. There are roads through college campuses all across this country. That's not, a road on a college campus is not a new thing. But making sure that it's designed in a safe manner for the college would be part of that site plan if we ever got to that point. We're hopeful that they can do the fundraising for that future project. Then we can have that conversation. But just because there's a road connection across does not, in my opinion, kill a project.
Throughout the planning and, because I know this has been a very long process getting to where we are today, has there been a variety of road options discussed that would maybe meet everyone's needs? And did those not work for some reason, and if so, why?
I
By
think,
who?
yeah, there was discussion of the road running parallel to the rail line and going through that Hunter's
At the
Grand
very
subdivision.
back of, okay, and what
Tying in a town road into a cul-de-sac small neighborhood that DOT maintains. So traditionally, DOT roads are 20 feet of pavement with ditches and swales. Town roads, wider, more amenities, sidewalk. Having a 3-lane road tie into a local street is not a good thing for that neighborhood, nor is it good for the flow of traffic either. I mean, to go into that cul-de-sac area and then come out on Eagle Rock, it would just not be well for many reasons, in our opinion. The options could be, as Mark mentioned, is a design difference. When it goes through the college campus, it certainly could be a different road type, but still meet the needs of moving traffic and pedestrians and bicyclists. But it doesn't have to necessarily be a 79-foot right-of-way, 3-lane.
Further answer your question, Brian and I met with Mr. Berry and staff at Free Will Baptist Church, and they showed us their concept plan, and we talked about the road alignment and the requirements for development if they got to that point. And at that point, we talked about that rear part of the road and how putting it down next to the railroad tracks may provide an option to have less of an impact on the college campus. They mentioned that that's an area that they wanted their retired missionaries to have their residences, and they thought a road and a railroad track may be a bit much, and it was kind of a non-starter. So we were trying to move it to a place of less impact, understanding that the close proximity to US 64 creates a safety issue with having roads. People are just going to use the US 64 road if this one isn't a viable alternative.
Right.
And so, trying to find that design. So if it was left in the proposed due to development on either side, it would be working with it to have a less intrusive road and looking at pedestrian crossings just like we do on Business 64 to get from the north side of downtown to downtown areas, installing flashing signals or other pedestrian crossings for a major.
Any other questions from the board?
Mayor, I just have a comment. You mentioned earlier about some of us have been around a little bit longer. Commissioner Lutz will probably recall this, but Mr. Baines' comments made me recall 2017 and talking about U5323. And I remember having similar conversations about no one's ever going to build a road right through the middle of this track to the north of here. It's never going to happen. It's a curved road. It's got a weird hook. And nobody that's going to develop anything is going to build a road there. And they are. And Wake Tech came along. Well, no one in 2017 could have thought that Wake Tech was going to pop up in 2019. And suddenly that portion of the road that was the very contentious portion of that conversation, all those issues went away. I also remember that because we were at Hepzibah Baptist Church, and Mr. Berry and I met for the first time that night, and we talked about where a road would be and where it would be located, and the transportation plan at the time. I see this road very similar to the one that was on the top end, right? You have to put it where it's best suited, and that's where it was put in 2017. That's where it still is. It's not as if it just got there. It's not as if this was, I think, based on my math, in the 2007 plan before it was on a piece of paper, before any of us were on the board. So that seems to be a separate and apart issue. That said, I'm sympathetic to the desire for you guys to grow and for it to develop, and I think it's one of those, as soon as that opportunity presents itself, certainly happy to make that happen with y'all's growth. That said, this is a pretty clear cut spot. The reason that the road to the north was crookedly realigned was because we were going after Wake County Economic Development money to try to get all of these parcels put together so we could do it all at once. And that was the deal with LAP funding at the time. I say that to say not only is this not new, but it's kind of a thing that I've been hearing different sides of this intersection conversation going back at least 5 or 6 years. And I'm certainly glad to see that develop the way that it has. And I think that the connectivity is huge. Do I know exactly where every piece of that road is going to be today? No. I am confident that we're doing every bit of due diligence on the front end to make sure that we make the best selection for the final product. And I'm also confident that the investments are there to make it a reality. And I think you'll see that if you look through budgets or expenses or the detail of this plan. And I just wanted to provide a little historical context because I know others may have not been aware of the development to the north and how that ultimately played out, as well as just how long this has kind of been a conversation about that parcel and how we would connect. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Did the applicant want to say something else?
I do. My friend would tell me to be kind, and I will try. I heard a little contempt for our mission, and our mission.
I misspoke, the opposition.
The opposition?
Yeah. You're not the applicant. I misspoke. I called you the applicant.
Oh, the applicant.
Go ahead.
I appreciate Mr. Collins bringing back to history our meeting and how we did come to an agreement on the back of the property as a possibility for a road, and I thought that pleased him. He acknowledged that, and I thought that Mr. Coates did the same. But coming out of that meeting, I've tried to meet a couple of times and gone to the office and just can't get past the front door. But that road has moved back to the middle of our property, and which was a surprise because I thought we'd come to some sort of an agreement, and at least a verbal agreement. And like Mr. Tevis High said on the planning board, how do you get to this point? If you wrote it in 2007, how do you get this point that you've not contacted the people and kind of figured out another way? And even Old Tarboro, that when we develop that we, since we have a good road base there, that we don't go ahead and widen that and put that in the drawings there, but we let it go and get narrowed. So I guess my question would be, if that road is essential, and by the way, I asked you a couple of questions in my earlier speech about asking Oppidan about their TIA and the necessary for east-west traffic. But if that road is so necessary and it needs to go across Southeastern Free Will Baptist College property, and we've drawn the highest elevate, the best piece of property that we have, you've drawn our road on, so I say you, actually it was a firm from Maryland, AMT, I think that's what they were called. And they came down from Maryland and they drew all the roads back in 2007. And anyway, but you've chosen the best piece of property, but how do we propose that it gets paid for? So because while we're looking at options today, as far as maybe the road could go down to a 2-lane road and maybe we can work it out, that is not what I've received from staff. What I've received from staff is if you don't annex and if you don't this, you will be put into, you'll have to pay for it. And that's just how it's going to be. And the way you're going to pay for it is we're never going to offer you any building permits if you appeal for one. So our drawing, by the way, is engineered. We know where the water has to go, the sewer has to go all the way around the property. So I know it was contemptuous that we haven't, this is just there to stop the road. But when I moved here in 2016, I began working on this immediately. And that's why I came to your meetings, because this was part of my job as Director of Development. And I began to work on this. And so it is my passion, it is my life, and I do care what happens to that property because it does make a difference as to what we are able to do with the property that Ira Fuller and this town commission board many years ago said this is a great property and a great place for you to grow. And now all of a sudden we're going to be minimized of what our abilities and possibilities are. And so I just, again, I'm willing to work. Our president said, we are not against him. Again, we'll go to a hockey game one day. I'm sure I'm not supposed to address him, but I like him, okay? But let's work together and figure out something to where there's something that doesn't cut right across the middle of our property. I'm the Director of Development, so I've got to go to churches and say, listen, church, I'm here, my group is singing, and I would like you to give money because we are building a road on our property for the town of Wendell. Please, pull out your checkbooks. It's not happening. I will never be able to raise money for that road, which means it will only be longer and longer and longer that we don't have east-west traffic. If we really want east-west traffic, and we need east-west traffic, please, I don't want to say slow down because I know they don't want to slow down. They've got investors, but let's figure something out. Let's pitch in together, okay?
Anyone? All right, close the public hearing. Whoop,
Good
I'm
one,
sorry.
Cynthia.
Just wanted to clarify some history. There has been opposition to this road the entire time it's been planned. You all are forgetting the property of an elderly man who has a beautiful home, on that little triangle beside the, where the one little yellow piece ends, crosses Eagle Rock. His name is Harvey Murphy. He opposed this road all along. You can look back in public comments. I've read them online. Also, J.W. Dunn opposed this road. He has passed away, and he lived in my neighborhood, okay? And we don't want a big road coming behind our neighborhood. That messes with our peace. Nevertheless, it is not right to ignore Mr. Murphy's opposition. It was a sparsely, no one lived there. No opposition, well, surprise, no one lives there, okay? No one lived there when it was designed.
Right, now we'll close the public hearing. Y'all's pleasure. Any more questions for town staff or whatever?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Move we, approve the annexation and adopt the attached ordinance.
we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request.
Rest. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And consider, and adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion?
That includes moving that road, or clarification?
So my understanding is that they've submitted a process that'll come through town, and if that process was to complete, then they could work with Oppoden afterwards to
That will happen.
sort out where that road exactly should be, with the exception of the Wendell Falls portions, which will come back from that RFQ that we put out to help us select the best spot for that one.
There are still options for the road.
Yeah, there are options. Any other discussion on the motion?
I just want to say one thing, just real quick, and I'm not going to bogart your motion here. One thing I think, only thing that's been said, or I think it's been said a lot today, is the infrastructure of the town. And while, as I've said many times before, and been concerned about developments and areas and the roads and what it's going to do to volume and intersections, and my opinion with those won't change. Having a large commercial development adjacent to an interstate, across from already previous commercial developments, it makes sense to have this, and I don't know what else in the world would ever go here other than what's being proposed tonight. So I just wanted to say that too. I think infrastructure is less stressed by placing this where it is now than it would be if we placed it at another location.
Thank you. Anyone else comment? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request and adopt the ordinance. Let's raise our hands on this one. All in favor? We don't do that in our rules of procedure. Anyone opposed? 4 to 1. Right, we're going to take about a 15-minute recess. All right, let's come back to order. We're going to pick up with item 5C, which is an evidentiary hearing on a special use permit request by Oppidan Investment Company to create a planned unit development on approximately 257.43 acres located at 0 Wendell Boulevard, 0 US Highway East, 5412 La Jolla Farm Road, 0 Nightdale Eagle Rock Road, 590 Wendell Boulevard, 2000 Rolling Pines Lane, 524 Wendell Boulevard, 500 Wendell Boulevard, 216 Rolling Pines Lane, 512 Eagle Rock Road, 2021 Rolling Pines Lane, 538 Wendell Boulevard, 0 US 64 Highway, and 2020 Rolling Pines Lane. Mr. Coates, are you there?
Yep. I think the first step is for the town clerk to swear in those who are going to be giving testimony tonight, so.
Do you want an
let's hear from the town attorney first about the evidentiary hearing guidelines, please.
Mayor, members of the board, this is an evidentiary hearing, and as was pointed out earlier, it's unlike a legislative hearing where the board has discretion. With an evidentiary hearing, the board sits as judges and applies the evidence to the law, which is your UDO, and the criteria in your ordinance. If those standards are met, you make that decision based on the evidence solely and not from any information outside the hearing. Witnesses are sworn. Certain matters in these proceedings do require expert testimony, like property valuation or engineering matters or subjects that you would expect a court of law to require expert testimony on. Since it is a due process hearing, fair and impartial decision makers are required. If any board member doesn't have an open mind or has been lobbied about this matter, that should be disclosed. Again, your decision is based only on the evidence presented. The statute says that witnesses may present competent, material, and substantial evidence that is not repetitive. So you do have the latitude to rein in repetitive testimony. With that summary, I'm glad to answer any questions and assist the board with the hearing.
All right. Any questions from the board, Mr. Colley? All right. If there's anyone that wishes to speak tonight in tonight's hearing, we need to get you sworn in by the town clerk. You can step up. If you think you even might, come on up. You don't have to, but if you think you even might.
Do you swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, we'll open the hearing and hear from Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the request tonight is to hold the evidentiary hearing and act on a special use permit request for those properties that the mayor listed here on the screen. I would like to enter our staff report and all the agenda packet documents into the record as evidence, including our PowerPoint presentation. Special use permit criteria, I just want to go over these, read those to you quickly. The evaluation and approval of the special use permit shall be governed by quasi-judicial proceedings, which are based upon the sworn testimony and evidence presented at the hearing relevant to the following standards. A, that the proposed use does not affect adversely the general plans for the physical development of the town as embodied in this ordinance and any other plan or portion thereof adopted by the Board of Commissioners. B, the proposed use will not be contrary to the purposes stated for these regulations. The proposed use will not adversely affect the health and safety of residents and workers in the town. D, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the use of development of adjacent properties and other neighborhood uses. E, the proposed use will not be affected adversely by the existing uses. F, the proposed use will be placed on a lot of sufficient size to satisfy the space requirements of the use. G, the proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or hazard because of the number of persons who will attend or use the facility, vehicular movement, noise, or fume generation or type of physical activity. The standards set forth for each particular use project for which permit may be granted have been met. The board may impose or require such additional restrictions and conditions as may be necessary to protect the health and safety of workers and residents in the community and to protect the value and use of property in the general neighborhood. J, the proposed use shall be subject to the minimum area setback and other location requirements of the zoning district in which it will be located. And K, the proposed use shall be subject to the off-street parking and service requirements of these regulations, provided, however, that an approved PUD document may include modifications of such requirements. Item summary, planned unit development consists of two components, a rezoning, which you just heard, and then a special use permit that's heard by the Board of Commissioners. Again, it's a 257-acre assemblage at the intersection of Wendell Boulevard and I-87 to create a mixed-use development of commercial, office, industrial, and residential. The PUD contains 4 zones. Zones 1 and 2 are adjacent to US 64 and intended for more commercial development. Zone 3 is the majority of the site and adjacent to I-87 and the rail line, and is intended for industrial, and Zone 4 is south of the rail line and is to be a residential mix. The applicant has completed a TIA, which is a requirement for a project this size for zones 1, 2, and 3 with those identified square footage amounts. If a square footage amount exceeds that or the trip generation, a revised TIA would be needed. The applicant is proposing a maximum threshold of 650 total multifamily dwellings in zones 2 and 4, and then the density that's consistent with the comp plan for the remaining zone 4. PUD is attachment C in your exhibits. Location, parcels, the majority of the site's currently Wake County's jurisdiction. You just approved annexation and rezoning, so now it's town of Wendell, and then the property owners are listed. Property is located between Wendell Boulevard, Knightdale, Eagle Rock Road, along I-87, is near Wendell Falls and Wake Tech. And existing zoning, a variety of things, mix of uses, from an airport landing strip to the west to an industrial park on Three Sisters to a community college and commercial uses. It's a variety of land uses that currently exist nearby. The map of the PUD is outlined in red with the blue shading. See the site context. Map showing the 4 zones. And the description of each zone. Zone 1 is commercial. The following uses are included: lodging, office, service, retail, restaurants, entertainment, recreation, civic, institutional, distillery, brewery, indoor storage, neighborhood manufacturing, and research and development. Zone 2 is a commercial multifamily district, so it adds all those commercial uses plus multifamily. Zone 3 is industrial. The uses are listed there. Zone 4 is residential, which would also allow for some civic or institutional uses as well. The design standards that are in the PUD document that would go with Zone 4, the single-family detached, are listed there. Our typical zoning conditions that we've been seeing on residential, no vinyl, and then information on the front facade, primary color, windows and doors, side elevations, porches, a variety of design details. Townhomes, also no vinyl, variety of details from shake elements to brick to masonry. And then the buildings have the step back of 2 feet in the block. Apartments, condos, mixed-use buildings will comply with the town of Wendell UDO requirements. They're not proposing any additional standards on those buildings. And for the record, we do have design guidelines for those. We just can't have design guidelines on single-family homes, but we do on multifamily, mixed-use buildings, and commercial. Commercial buildings, materials, 80% must meet that from that list of materials. 20% or less from the facade would be concrete, masonry units, EIFS, split face block, or concrete. Cinder block is not permitted. Zone 3 additional requirements. Buildings in Zone 3 are exempt from the building design requirements of Chapter 5 of the UDO. All Zone 3 buildings to incorporate changes in color, building materials, and/or projection every 100 feet to break up that facade. All mechanical units will be screened from the public right-of-way or a residential use. Unit mount screens are permitted. Special use requirements, we went over those. I'm going to go over each of the categories and discuss the criteria that's in the PUD and how it relates to the UDO. Zones 1, 2, and 3 are to preserve a 20-foot undisturbed buffer. If they do disturb it, they'll provide a 25-foot type 1 buffer. The town's UDO does not have a 25-foot buffer, so that extra 5 feet is beyond our regulations that the applicant is offering if they do disturb that buffer. And then there's 0 buffer proposed along the rail right-of-way for the development. Interior buffers, traditionally these are more stringent than ours. We don't have a 25-foot buffer. We have a 20-foot typically between certain uses. So they're providing a bigger buffer between like warehouse, industrial, adjacent to vacant residential or existing residential. The 15-foot type 2 buffer, proposed residential next to a warehouse, light industrial, and then interior buffers would not be required between multifamily residential and retail, which is consistent with typically like, we'll just use Tree Light Square as an example. There's not a buffer between the apartments and Publix. It's a very common request in a mixed-use center as traditionally having those uses close together for people to walk to the commercial, or it's a typical non-buffer requirement. The applicant, as I said, has proposed these 2 types of buffers. And so you can see type 1 is 25 feet, and then there's the description of the tree canopy, understory trees, and then the alternative type 1 may be reduced, but not along the project perimeter buffer. And if it gets reduced, it does have an additional evergreen understory tree every 20 feet. Modified gateway buffer. Town does require, UDO requires the gateway buffer along all of our major roadways. So they're providing a 15-foot streetscape buffer along Wendell Boulevard that can serve as the gateway to the development. Street yard buffers to include 3 canopy trees per 100 linear feet, 6 understory trees per 100 linear feet as well. The buffer will also contain 1 shrub every 5. Understory trees may be pyramidal evergreen trees or ornamental trees. Spacing of the requirements can be flexible in design as long as they're meeting the density of the plantings in that 100-foot. They are planning to have either a split rail fence or a small masonry wall as a feature in the buffer yard. Open space, they've committed to complying with our UDO regulations that are listed here based on the type of housing. So it depends on the square footage of the number of units for multifamily or townhomes or single family to determine what amount of open space. They are proposing in the zones 1, 2, and 3, zones 2 and 3, that the natural areas could contain walking trails, dog park, pocket parks, and serve as open space for the multifamily that could be in zone 2. Stormwater, they would need to obtain stormwater sedimentation erosion control permits from Wake County before any site work can commence. They have Exhibit A, which shows general locations for ponds and environmentally sensitive areas. However, on construction drawing submittal, we would need to see those delineated further. Utilities, they are showing connections to water and sewer. Everything north of the rail line would flow towards Eagle Rock Road, water and sewer. The area in Zone 4, south of the tracks, would flow towards the Wendell Falls infrastructure. And that's typical. Crossing a rail line or crossing a major roadway like I-87 to get to some of the Wendell Falls infrastructure was really challenging, and so they worked with Raleigh on a pump station in design, and Raleigh has given that this PUD document would serve as the preliminary plan, and so this development would submit construction drawings to the town for review. Transportation, the north-south roadway, dedicate 110-foot right-of-way. They would construct a 3-lane. In the future, that rail crossing is going to need to be completed. Could happen by developers, Town of Wendell, NCDOT, or a combination. East-west, we've talked a lot about that one. East-west currently showing a 79-foot right-of-way, 3 travel lanes. Portions of the collector, as we mentioned, are under construction as part of Anderson Farm and Peyton Place. Also, transportation, that the applicant has obtained the right-of-way for 110 feet to connect the current Eagle Rock roadway with a new entrance to Wake Tech that assists with realignment. As we mentioned earlier, we're gonna go through an RFQ process to decide where that future extension needs to go and the cost and design for that. The exhibits of the roadways with the multi-use path showing. They did complete a TIA. There are 4 concepts, scenarios for the TIA. We'll go through those. If Zone 4 develops, they will need to submit most likely a TIA based on the number of units and meeting our threshold. And then also, the trip generation is calculated for each construction drawing submittal to the town. Scenario A doesn't include full build-out, does show Eagle Rock Road being rerouted through their project and contains the north-south roadway with multiple turn lanes out of the development at Site Drive 1, which is the right in, right out as you get off the interstate and make a right towards Wendell. There's scenario A. Scenario B includes full build-out with the amounts listed there. It does show a full lane added to Wendell Boulevard along the frontage and the interchange ramps, 100-foot right turn lane onto eastbound I-87, and then the intersection of Nightdale, Eagle Rock, Wendell Valley Boulevard will be monitored for signalization. B1 includes all those same road improvements but aligns the road with the Wake Tech entrance. And then scenario C includes site build-out and the planned rail crossing for Wendell Valley Boulevard, with some trips exiting towards the south. Does include some additional off-ramp lane improvements at westbound 87 at Wendell Falls Parkway. And the applicant is proposing a transit easement at the interior intersection of Wendell Valley Boulevard and the east-west road connection, right in that commercial area where commercial meets industrial, as a transit location for the future. Neighborhood meeting was held October 21st. Minutes from the meeting are attached. Staff does not make a recommendation on a special use permit. We just provide facts. Legal advertisement is listed below. We ran legal ads in Wake Weekly November 18th and November 25th. Notification was mailed to adjacent property owners on November 15th. And public hearing notice signs were placed at the location two signs were posted on Wendell Boulevard, 2 signs on Nightdale Eagle Rock on November 17th. And I can, the applicant does have a PowerPoint, and I can answer any questions you may have at this point.
Any questions from the board? Not now, you'll have a chance later. Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
You're welcome.
Good evening again. Matthew Carpenter with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, here tonight on behalf of the applicant and the developer Opidin Investment Company. And as I mentioned before, and as the town attorney explained, this is the second of the 2-step process for the approvals of this project, and this will be an evidentiary hearing. And so, you know, tonight I'll call a group of witnesses who will testify to the showings that you see on your screen of A through K, and I'll try to go as fast as I can, but because of the state statutes, we are required to meet every factor. So with that, I'll forecast a little bit what you'll hear. Tim Brent with Opidin will speak about his vision for the project. Michael Kane, our civil engineer, will speak to the plan's compliance with the town's development regulations and land use policies. Nathan Romberg, our traffic engineer, will speak to the project's traffic impacts and proposed mitigations for those impacts. And finally, Hunter Howell with Valbridge Property Advisors will explain that the plan will not be detrimental to adjacent properties and that the proposed use will not be adversely affected by the surrounding uses. And so, before we start, I'll just make a blanket objection to any testimony in opposition to the SUP from individuals that might lack standing. or their testimony may be hearsay or irrelevant for some other reason. And so, with that, I'll call our first witness, Tim Brent.
Good evening. I'm Tim Brent. Office address is 2000 Regency Parkway, Suite 435, Cary, North Carolina 27518. And I am Executive Vice President of Oppidan Investment Company. I've been working for Oppidan for almost 3 years now. Before that, I was a land broker with NAI Carolantic in Raleigh and have invested in real estate for 18 years. Oppidan is a 31-year-old national development company headquartered in Excelsior, Minnesota, with an office here in Cary and an office in San Jose, California. We develop largely commercial real estate projects that include industrial development, data center development, multifamily development, senior housing, and retail.
Thanks, Tim. I'd like to tender Mr. Brent as an expert in the field of land development. And also, would you like to adopt your presentation from the legislative hearing as part of your testimony in the quasi-judicial hearing?
Yes, I would.
That's okay with the town attorney? Okay. That'll be all. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
I'd like to call our second witness, Michael Kane.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Michael Kane. I'm a professional engineer. I've been practicing for 24 years. I'm sorry, my office is at 1011 Pemberton Hill Road in Apex, North Carolina. 13 of those years has been with Capital Civil, which I am a co-owner of. And we have worked on, just in the last 10 years, nearly 4 million square feet of industrial development, not counting other office, retail, residential projects as well. So we have significant experience ensuring that our projects comply with various ordinances, comprehensive plans, and state and federal regulations. I drafted this PUD text that we are hearing on, and I've overseen the design layout of the master plan. I've also reviewed the UDO and worked with staff over the last several months in order to make sure that this is in line with the town standards.
Thanks, Michael. I'd like to tender Mr. Kane as an expert in the field of civil engineering and site design.
Thank you. This may be a little repetitive, but the master plan you see here is, it's gone through several rounds of review with the town, with the staff, and also the City of Raleigh Public Utilities, NCDOT, and all those partners that we have in vetting this out. We've worked on this to refine the plan, ensure that it confirms with the development standards, and I will provide you some high-level details, and happy to share any more specifics if you have questions. Overall, the plan permits a large industrial mixed-use project with nearly 2 million square feet of industrial, retail, and restaurant uses, along with a mix of housing types along the southern portion of the property. It's split into 4 zones, as you can see, with different uses in each zone. The uses have been strategically allocated to each zone based on the size, location, and the requirements for the use. Zone 1 is shown in orange, and it is intended primarily as the commercial area with a variety of uses, including hotels, banks, professional services, restaurants, general retail, and shopping center. The full list of permitted uses is found on page 2 of the PUD text, and all the listed uses may be permitted in PUD zoning districts as identified in UDO section 2.3C. Zone 2, shown in pink, is also intended as a commercial area. It includes the same wide range of commercial uses as Zone 1, with the primary difference being that multifamily units are permitted in Zone 2. Zone 2 and 4 are allowed a maximum of 650 multifamily dwelling units between the 2 zones. Zone 3, shown in purple, is intended primarily for industrial development, although other non-residential and uses are permitted. This zone covers the majority of the land area and represents the project's intent to be an industrial-focused development. Zone 4, shown in yellow, is intended as a residential district. The only permitted uses in Zone 4 are residential, schools, and churches. Zone 4 and 2 together are limited to a maximum of 650 multifamily dwelling units. Single-family detached units in Zone 4 are limited to 4 units per acre, and any townhome development would be limited to 8 units per acre. As far as plan consistency goes, the PUD and the master plan are consistent with the town's land use map and comprehensive plan. The land use map designates the property as an innovation district, and the comp plan specifies an area plan that they call the Wake Tech area that includes this subject property. The area plan calls for flex space to support a variety of businesses and job growth in the area, and a new road that provides north-south route connecting Wake Tech to the activity center at the heart of Wendell Falls to the south. The master plan has been laid out and designed to meet the town's UDO standards and ensure that development is not detrimental to adjacent development or existing uses. Where the PUD does not set forth a specific standard, the town's UDO will control. Zone 4, which is primary residential area, will meet the town UDO requirements for residential development. The other 3 mixed-use zones will be subject to the building dimensional requirements on page 7 of the PUD text. Notably, the project includes a 60-foot perimeter building setback around the project to help mitigate effects on adjacent properties. The PUD text also requires a 20-foot undisturbed outer project boundary buffer and streetscape buffers tailored specifically to each new street. The text also specifies buffer requirements for adjacent uses internal to the site to ensure that adjacent uses remain compatible. We've also included a list of architectural commitments in the PUD, which ensure that buildings on the site will be of high quality. For utilities, zones 1, 2, and 3 will access the public water mains on existing in Wendell Boulevard, and will extend public water mains along the public right-of-ways of the proposed streets. Zone 4 will connect to the existing water main on Knightdale Eagle Rock Road. For sewer, the site will flow to the southwest naturally to a sewer pump station that will pump sewer via force main eastward down Eagle Rock and towards Buffalo Creek, where there's a gravity sewer we can pick up. In conclusion, the PUD and the master plan meet all the PUD standards outlined in UDO section 2.19, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for this witness?
No.
I'd like to call our next witness, Nathan Romberg.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Romberg. I'm a transportation engineer with VHB Engineering. Our office address is 940 Main Campus Drive, Suite 500 in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of North Carolina, and I've been with VHB for the past 5 years, assisting with many traffic impact studies, other transportation-related projects, some involving sites very similar to the mixed use of this nature. I oversaw the traffic impact analysis performed for this project and have reviewed the plans for conformance with the UDO specifications and transportation plans.
I'd like to tender Mr. Romberg as an expert in the field of transportation engineering.
The traffic impact analysis for this project was completed with town staff as well as NCDOT, with the assumptions of the following of the project including 1,666,875 square feet of industrial, a 65,000 square foot grocery store, 336 multifamily dwelling units, 24,000 square feet of a mix of restaurant retail space, and a gas station with 8 fueling positions. The analysis creates a total vehicle trip count that will be used to monitor density as the project develops. Each construction drawing submitted will be reviewed and compared to the original TI assumptions to ensure that the phased construction of necessary infrastructure improvements is completed. If trips exceed the original assumptions, Further traffic studies may have to be done at that time. We may either need to revise the existing study or perform a new study based on what's exceeded or changed. The analysis included studying key intersections near the site and included traffic anticipated from several other projects in the area that have been approved but are not expected to be completed for several years. The analysis estimates a total of approximately 17,614 total site trips within a typical 24-hour period, including 1,480 site trips in the morning peak hour and 1,668 site trips in the evening peak hour. I'll go to the next slide. Okay. Next, I'll go over the street sections. These trips will be mitigated by the construction of new transportation infrastructure, including over 6,500 linear feet of new public roadways, which includes the construction of Estromeda Avenue as a 3-lane thoroughfare with a 79-foot right-of-way, 2 travel lanes, and a center turn lane, a 19-foot planting area on one side, and a 10-foot planting area and 8-foot multi-use path on the other side. It also includes the construction of Wendell Valley Boulevard as a 3-lane thoroughfare with similar street section, but in a 110-foot right-of-way. And on both roads, the multi-use path will be separated from or by a curb to allow for safe pedestrian and vehicular travel. So the pedestrians and the bicyclists won't be in the travel lane with vehicle and truck traffic. The project will also aid in the realignment of Eagle Rock off-sites. Until that improvement is completed, Eagle Rock Road will be closed off from the intersection and temporarily rerouted through the site. The scenario A in the TI that has been mentioned does analyze this scenario where Eagle Rock Road takes a couple of years to be realigned and some Eagle Rock traffic needs to reroute through while our site traffic also exits. And we've shown that that new signal improvement will be sufficient. The project also is providing transit easement to go Raleigh at the interior intersection of Wendell Valley Boulevard and Estromeda Avenue near Zone 2 in a location agreed to by the developer, town, and transit authority. Now I'll go over the transportation plan real quick. The construction of Estromeda Avenue in the location shown on the town's arterial and collector street plan is required by UDO section 2.19.C.3.11, which requires that the PUD document be consistent with the Town of Wendell Transportation Plan. The transportation plan was adopted in 2016 and shows Estromeda Avenue in purple. This east to west street is also shown in the town's previous street plan, which was adopted in 2007. Accordingly, it is my professional opinion that the proposed development will not adversely impact the safety of residents from a transportation perspective, and the proposed use will not constitute a nuisance based on vehicular movement. The proposed road network will allow safe and efficient flow of emergency services to and from the site. I'm also happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Can you talk about the connection of where the railroad track comes in from? I guess that's
to the south. To the south.
To the south. Just your thoughts on that. I saw it was captured in one of the studies, but your thoughts on the importance of that and how we achieve that?
Sure. Yeah, I'll at least speak to from the TIA side. Obviously, from town's perspective, I'm not as familiar, but we did include a scenario in which the connection was there, which would allow some traffic to exit to the south. Primarily, if all traffic exits to the north, folks then going into Raleigh would kind of make a left and then kind of the right around. Some traffic would then choose to possibly go south and just use the next interchange. So it would allow for it would probably remove some traffic off of Wendell Boulevard that then would choose to use the interchange to the south. As far as how to make it happen, I've heard that working with railroads is very difficult and things take time. So we provided that scenario just for informational purposes so that, if it does occur, the TI would kind of have that information for the town, for NCDOT. But we've also analyzed multiple scenarios that don't have the connection, showing that the existing street network can still operate acceptably if the connection does not happen for some time. If that makes sense.
Sure. I'd like to call our next witness, Hunter Howell.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hunter Howell. My office address is 412 East Chatham Street, Cary, North Carolina, 27511. I'm a professional real estate appraiser, and I work with Bridge Property Advisors. I am currently licensed by North Carolina as a state certified general appraiser, and I'm a member of the Appraisal Institute working towards a MAI designation. I have also been appraising properties here in Wake County for approximately 8 years now. I was engaged by the applicant to examine this development's impact on the site and the surrounding area.
At this point, I'd like to tender Mr. Howell as an expert in the field of property appraisal and impacts of new development.
So I'll review the master plan, the character of the surrounding area, and how this type of development typically impacts surrounding property. The site is mostly undeveloped land and is bound to the north and west by highways and to the south by the railroad. The properties to the north across US 64 business are commercial in nature and include an automobile dealership and a gas station. Directly adjacent to the east is a Southern Bell telephone site and the Southeastern Free Will Baptist College. The proposed industrial mixed-use project is appropriate for this site. The property is bound on 3 sides by highways and a railroad, which helps mitigate effects on adjacent properties. Additionally, the most intense commercial uses have been purposely located along the property's frontage. In general, high-density industrial, commercial, and residential development is compatible with the surrounding commercial, residential, and civic uses. This helps concentrate land uses, reduce sprawl, and promote a more efficient pattern of land uses and public utilities and services. The higher intensity of the proposed residential uses will support the commercial uses, while the master plan and PUD text propose adequate buffers and transitions to ensure the uses operate in a cohesive manner. Based on my experience in evaluating the impacts of this type of development, the buffers on the site plan will ensure the uses on the site and the surrounding properties will be appropriately protected. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to request that our application, exhibits, slides, the TIA, and the staff report be accepted into the record. And just to wrap everything up, you've heard from several different experts in their respective fields who have testified that the site meets the criteria here outlined in A through K so that the SUP should be granted. And so for that reason, we respectfully ask for your approval. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's been sworn that would like to speak? Okay. Are there any other questions from the board for anyone that you've heard from tonight? Yes.
I do, Madam. Brian, can you speak to the railroad connection? How we get there?
So for the rail crossing, Wendell Falls is dedicating 110-foot right-of-way. This development is proposing a 110-foot right-of-way up to the rail line, the rail property itself. Typically, it will be a joint venture, I would think, between town, NCDOT. There could be economic development funds in play based on potential tenants of the industrial park. So there's a wide variety of funding that could go into a rail crossing at this time. With the amount of right-of-way, I think we anticipate an at-grade, but it would have to be designed, could be different than that, but there's options and there's the right-of-way that's wide enough to give us crossing in the future.
Thank you for that.
Yep. And we specifically wanted that scenario included in their TIA because we know traffic could exit differently, and so they accommodated that with the 4 scenarios.
Madam Mayor, I just have a comment while we're all here and it's top of mind. I think the traffic engineer was correct in regards to dealing with railroads. That said, that part of this project, that connection is very exciting to me for a variety of reasons, including the quality that I think it brings, to this development. I see the zero buffers up against the railroad. I would imagine that's intentional. I would imagine that, the developer is going after that. I would encourage, and I guess this is kind of a conversation with the board, one of the things that I think has got to be a high priority for us is talking to anyone that will listen, as well as going through all of the traditional transportation channels, as well as asking our friends from the development community to foster those relationships as you guys are recruiting business in, because I think that connection could be ginormous for us, and it would do things for us today. And I also imagine that there are things that road will do for us in the future that I can't even imagine. So just wanted to put that thought out there, because it is having an additional road of that size that's running parallel to 87 is not something that we get to, that's a big win. And so it'll certainly be asking everybody to give everything they have as far as working to get that goal achieved. Mr. Manager, just add that to the top of your list if you don't mind.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All right, we'll close the hearing. And
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the special use permit.
all right, we have a motion to approve the special use permit. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
One opposed? 1, 4, 1. We'll move into our administrative items. Item 6A is a discussion of Wendell Park improvement design and budget. Mr. Collins.
Good evening. Well, at 10:30, I hate to be in between you and the rest of your evening, but I am. And I am for an important project update and budget adjustment request. The Wendell Park improvement is the replacement of the old concession stand for concession, restrooms, and picnic shelter. And we put that out to RFQ. We received competent responses for a design build for this time-sensitive project. And as you know, Jackson Builders was ranked first. Staff has, and our consultant has negotiated with Jackson Builders, and they brought back, they've worked with us and brought back a cost estimate to complete the project of $468,000. That's a $168,000 deficit from the budgeted $300,000, and does include approximately $69,000 for design. What this project does, it's not taking away the existing concession building. It's completely gutting it and remodeling it into a larger concession building, so the bathrooms aren't part of it. It's just concession. There's a cost savings for using the existing structure rather than demolition, so that's a negotiated value engineering to the project that's been discussed at this point. And then that would leave new structures for an ADA compliant restroom building with 7 fixtures for each gender, as well as modern accessories like hot water and electric heat and exhaust fans and lighting, in addition to accessible restrooms. It also provides for the 20 by 34 picnic shelter. All this is up there in proximity to the playground area and the ball fields. So this is a highly requested amenity enhancement. It's not a new ball field or facility, but it's something that the public, I know repeatedly has talked to y'all about needing to be addressed and brought current. The budget estimate of 300,000 is based on a number that's over 2 years old now. It was based on the cost estimate for Hollybrook Park for the restroom picnic shelter building that did not include the concession stand. And there's a lot that's happened with supply chain and equipment, construction costs in the last 2-3 years. And so the cost submitted is very reasonable from a staff consideration. So if the board so deems, we'd like to move forward with Jackson Builders with the cost estimate of $468,000 and bring that cost, the actual budget amendment to you later, but I don't want to proceed outside of budget without y'all's approval at this point. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this. What you might have seen earlier is our revenues are tracking well, our expenses are under budget. We have sufficient funds in our reserve to handle this cost differentiation on this project if the board so chooses to move forward.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, just a couple, and I'm not gonna belabor it too much this hour, but just overall, I want to say I'm not happy with this proposal. I mean, frankly, we've got a 55% budget increase on something that we just approved in this year's budget. I think the reasoning makes sense. I think I understand the numbers. I don't understand why design was not considered in the original number. So if you figure in 15% design and 20% inflation that we've got on a 2-year-old number, I don't think that this new number is totally crazy. It's the first one of these two that we've seen, and I acknowledge that. I think my main question, you might have mentioned something about some sort of value engineering that's happened as we move through this process. What steps have you taken? Can you kind of delineate to rein the project in? How has the scope of the project changed, or anything else to sort of meet somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, so for a design build, what was originally put out in the RFQ was demolition of the existing concession building and complete construction of a structure that has the 3 components, kind of a 3-in-1 facility. That cost is higher than this. And so we asked the builder, look out on site, what are some other considerations that might get us closer to budget? We can reduce further by not doing concession stand. That could bring us closer to budget. We'd still be over budget, but we wouldn't be bringing back all 3 items. In that case, we'd have to rely on food trucks or other concessionaires off-site coming on-site for events. As this structure is part of a larger regional network of fields that are used for tournaments and renting out for that kind of rental, a concession revenue is a customary and anticipated revenue for those users. So we feel that investment is appropriate for this site. But we can scale back the project, but being able to bring the 3 components, that's kind of rethinking how those buildings are built and adaptively reusing the existing building was a savings.
Any other questions or comments?
A quick question. This eliminates the need for the concession truck to be on site, correct?
Yeah, that shouldn't be up by the building anymore. I believe the Parks and Recreation Director has spoken to that concessionaire about not parking up by the building.
Okay.
The concessionaire does operate food trucks in addition to the concessions at the park, but it shouldn't be up there by the building.
Okay.
I want to bring everything in under budget and better than possible. It's challenging during the current environment right now.
Well, you're not bringing us a budget amendment back for a little bit, so you still have an opportunity to bring that number down.
We'll do our best.
With that, I'd move we approve the increase to the project from 300,000 to 468 to reflect the anticipated cost of the design build project.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, the increase to the project build from $300,000 to $468,000 to reflect anticipated cost of design build project. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, let's move into our other business. Wendell Volunteer Fire Department, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The fire department's met and they are wrapping up their year, and this meeting was so long ago now that I remember that we had just had a meeting 2 weeks prior and there wasn't a lot to report. So that's it for the fire department.
All right. Let's see, Campo.
I'll try to stay similarly brief. 3 quick highlights from our recent Campo meeting. Talked a little bit about future widening of 440 on the south side of Raleigh from US 1 to Lake Wheeler Road, so sort of southwest Raleigh. Not super close to us, but still part of that big regional network, folks moving around the triangle. Something I thought was really interesting, I'd be happy to share the presentation if anybody is interested, is landscaping and forestation on the roadside of DOT's properties. They're one of the largest property owners in the state, and some of the largest acreage of natural space in North Carolina, which you might not or you might not expect. You think about state parks and wildlife resources, but DOT owns a lot of forest land too. And I think as we talk about development and transportation infrastructure, I know that wildlife and environmental concerns are often considered on the front end when we're thinking about the permitting process, but I also think there's a long-term opportunity to think about the assets and the property that we acquire as we're building out all these pieces of our infrastructure system being benefits to our local environment and wildlife populations. And then finally, we discussed some of the continuing steps of transitioning Campo's lead agency from City of Raleigh to the town of Cary.
Tranquility Council of Governments, Commissioner Deloach.
Mine will be brief because the November meeting was canceled. We'll try again next month, Mayor.
All right, let's move into our commissioners' comments and start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the board carrying on. At the last meeting, was with my wife for our 10-year anniversary trip in Mexico. And as I was discussing with Commissioner Lutz earlier, may or may not have been watching the board meeting from Mexico at dinner. I wanted to just take a second tonight. Thanksgiving holiday, I'm going to take a lead from Commissioner Tarnaski here and talk about the holiday that just passed, Thanksgiving. One of the things that I'm greatly thankful for and have become very thankful for is our town staff. We have a lot of great community groups. We have a lot of great people that show up to make a lot of events go off, and we have a lot of other things, but at the core of that is our town staff. And over the past year, I've watched them sometimes work backwards uphill with a mask on, with one hand tied behind their back virtually. And some days are really fun days, and very exciting. We have a lot of really fun and exciting things going on. But some days aren't. And some days you're the guy that's in the middle of everyone that was just in this room, and you're getting pulled back and forth. Or you're the guy that's in the middle of this board, or you're the person that's responsible for making sure that our town's safe, even on the holiday, even when your kid's at home crying, even when you wanted to be with them for Thanksgiving. I am extremely thankful for the town of Wendell and everybody that makes that. But this year I'm specifically thankful for our town staff, and just wanted to say that. And then one quick plug. I'm sure someone's going to mention Wendell Wonderland, and they'll give you dates and times. I just want to plug that the Wendell United Methodist Church ladies and men are producing a cookie walk. The cookie walk is back. You can buy cookies by the pound, including my wife's rendition of my grandma's ginger snaps. So come on down to Wendell Wonderland. It's the best night in Wendell, and come get some cookies. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz.
I'll echo those same comments, and that's all for tonight.
Commissioner Eatman.
if you've ever wanted to be in a Hallmark movie, Wendell on the night of Wendell Wonderland is that. It is a Christmas Hallmark movie, all wrapped up in our beautiful downtown. It's a great example of the charm and just all the good things that our community has to offer, and would encourage anybody, whether you live here or you're visiting or you live anywhere else, to make a point to visit on that night. But besides that, I think I've had all the fun I can have for this night, and I thank you.
Commissioner Tornaski?
No comment tonight, Mayor.
Commissioner
Thanks.
Deloach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will try to make it brief. We've heard a few comments tonight. You're talking about our board, talking about the planning board, and I'll just say, I've mentioned this before, but our citizen boards are talented. And we are literally stacked with talent in Wendell. You know, each of the individuals on our planning board, impressive skill sets, to say the least. They're a diverse group, and I would put them up literally against any town council and or citizen board in the state. So they are engaged, they care, they ask great questions, and I'm proud to be able to come to the planning board to hear you know, just presentations, the questions that they have, the engagement that they provide. So I want to give a word of support, not only to our planning board, but to all of our citizen boards and our town staff. You know, Mayor Pro Tem or Joyner mentioned just the talent there as well. We support them 100%. I know I do. I trust them completely. And again, very talented group of individuals. They came here to make a difference, and they have passion, and they go about their business in a professional manner. So I appreciate what they do. I appreciate them pushing through until nearly 11 p.m. on a work day. So meeting Monday went a little long again tonight, so I'll be quiet. Tomorrow is Hangover Tuesday. So appreciate everything everybody does. And that is all, Wendell Wonderland.
I have a couple of quick reminders for you. The Launch Wendell program is underway right now. If you're interested, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to take your business to the next level, we're looking for participants right now. It starts in February of next year, which is just right around the corner. This is an opportunity for an initiative that supports developing entrepreneurs, small businesses, provides access to business development services, mentoring, networking opportunities, and you can look at launchwendell.com for any information or call the town hall. I'm sure any of our staff that we've been bragging about tonight will be happy to help you. We have upgraded our domain from .com to nc.gov, beginning with email addresses. So now town staff email addresses will be changed from it's your first initial at townofwendellnc.gov. So mine is vgray at townofwendellnc.gov from now on. So make those changes in your telephones. I know you've all got us all in your phones, and make those changes so that we can continue getting emails from y'all. You should get a reminder when you send an email right now. Wendell Wonderland is back with a great lineup of family activities. We are supporting, again, the Marine Toys for Tots Foundation. It's going to be on Fridays, December 2nd from 5 to 9 in downtown Wendell. There will be the Lake Mauer Light Show, trolley rides, a holiday market, dance and chorus performances, cookie walk, tree lighting ceremony, food trucks, and more. The tree is lit and Santa arrives at 6 o'clock. That's always big fun. Visitors are encouraged to bring new and unwrapped toys for children in need up to age 12 at multiple donation sites all over the town of Wendell. I think at every one of our facilities you can make donations, or you can bring them that night to the, they will be here to collect them that night, the Marines. So last year we donated over 850 toys in one night. I'm really proud of that, and I hope we can beat that record. It's a very small thing when you're out and about to pick up a toy for a little kid who maybe isn't going to get a whole lot for Christmas, and it's a big deal in their life, a small thing for you. I'm sure it would take 2 minutes out of your time, very little out of your wallet, and I think that the good feeling for participating will be more of a reward than you can anticipate. So I hope you will please participate in that. Also, we are asking you to show off your Christmas cheer by competing against your neighbors to showcase the best decorated home and business in the town. Winners will be announced online and receive a sign, so you get bragging rights and you get to put a sign up in your yard, and a gift card to some local businesses. The entries have to be submitted by Wednesday, December 7th, at townofwendell.com/Christmas contest. So you've got over a week to get that done, which is plenty of time. I hope there'll be a lot of participants, and I look forward to riding around and seeing all of them. And that's all. If we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Didn't even need to wait for it.
I can't be. Look, I'm on the.